So, Katie and colleagues, it's 1 o'clock. Do you think we can start? Yeah.
Yes, why don't you begin?
All right. So I think participants still logging in, but I think and I guess people will catch up with the agenda. So I hope I am audible at your end. Katie, can you confirm the sound is all right? Okay, super. Thank you. Thank you. So, Masa al-Khair, good afternoon, colleagues who've joined this first of its kind multi-partner regional convening on supporting parents in the Eastern Mediterranean, the Middle East, and the North Africa region. This has been a long time in the making, and we're so pleased that all of us have been able to get together to offer you an exciting lineup of speakers over the next 3 days in the afternoons to talk about parenting-related work, programs, policies, evidence over the next 3 days. This regional convening has 4 objectives that we have started out with: to advocate for the social, mental, and physical well-being of parents and the implementation of evidence-based policies and interventions in the region, to examine available evidence on the parenting support programs, strategies, and approaches across the region, and this particularly with a view to identifying gaps and areas for further improvement. A third objective is around facilitating knowledge sharing and collaboration amongst the different partners and agencies working in this area across the region. The focus will be on planning, adapting, resourcing, and scaling up effective interventions and delivery strategies, channels, or platforms for parenting support. And a fourth objective, finally, which is very important to all of us partners, is to strengthen the work that is happening within countries with governments and partners to influence policies, planning strategies, our cooperation across the countries, resources, and capacities. So with these 4 objectives in mind, we'll start off our meeting today with an opening from 3 of our partners that have convened a larger steering committee of many, many different agencies, and we'll have a chance to highlight many of their names after we start with the opening. I'll start with inviting our first speaker, our colleague, Dr. Maha El-Adawi, who is the Director of Healthier Populations at the World Health Organization in the Eastern Mediterranean Regional Office. I have to mention here that our WHO colleagues are the ones who brought us all together and initiated the process. So over to you, Dr. Maha El-Adawi. Sorry. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Neha. Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you are. And thank you very much for joining this meeting. It is really my pleasure to have you all here in this first virtual regional convening in support of parents in the Eastern Mediterranean region, if we talk about WHO regions, or the Middle East, North Africa region, if we talk about UNICEF region, or many other agencies. So today we gather here to shed light on one of the most critical aspects of our society: how to better support parents in today's challenging, or I should say very challenging environment. Parenting plays a pivotal role in shaping the future of our children, and consequently, the development of our communities and nations. The early years of a child's life are a period of rapid growth and learning, forming the foundation of their physical, intellectual, emotional, and social well-being. As we embark on this very important journey together, let us reflect on the significance of our roles as parents, caregivers, educators, policymakers, and community leaders, and I must add from my point of view, and grandparents as well. By understanding and addressing the challenges faced by parents in our region, we can collectively ensure that every child receives the nurturing and supportive environment they need to thrive. Throughout this event, over the 3 days, we will explore various dimensions and aspects of parenting, sharing evidence-informed practices, tools, resources, and success stories from across the region to support parents and build a future where every child in the Eastern Mediterranean region can reach his or her full potential. The regional convening will provide a platform for dialogue, knowledge sharing, and collaboration among all stakeholders involved in early childhood development, mental development, mental health, and violence against children, aiming to identify effective strategies, evidence-based practices, and innovative solutions that can empower parents and optimize the developmental outcomes of our children. I would like to extend my gratitude to all the distinguished speakers, experts, and participants who have joined us today. Your presence and contributions are invaluable, and I am confident that together we can make a lasting impact on the lives of our children and the prosperity of our societies. My thanks also go to our colleagues in WHO headquarters and global partners who lead the global initiative to support parents, GISP, namely UNICEF, Parenting for Lifelong Health, the Global Partnership to End Violence Against Children, the Early Childhood Development Action Network. I would like to highly commend the great efforts made by the members of our regional organizing committee, including WHO Regional Office for the Eastern Mediterranean region, and I know I have my colleagues too, colleagues from my department, Dr. Hala Saad and Dr. Khalid Siddiq, who's joining us in spite of being on leave. Thank you very much, Khalid, and also Dr. Khalid Saeed from the Mental Health Department. We also have UNICEF Regional Office for MENA. We have the Arab Network for Early Childhood Development, and I think Dr. Ghassan is also joining us, and all the good friend. Developmental Pediatrics Unit in Sultan Qaboos University in Oman, the School of Behavioral Sciences and Mental Health, which is a WHO collaborating center for mental health in Iran, the National Family Safety Program, Saudi Arabia, which is also a WHO collaborating center on child maltreatment, and Save the Children International. So I thank you all for all the efforts. And I know that this, I've been following up with Dr. Hala and Dr. Khalid and Dr. Khalid Saeed as well. And I know that there have been a lot of efforts to reach to this point. So I congratulate you for having the first step. And I wish you a very fruitful and very productive and inspiring convening. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Maha. Now I'd like to call on Mark Rubin, who is the UNICEF Deputy Regional Director for Programs at the UNICEF Middle East and North Africa Regional Office. Mark, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Maha. Thank you, Niha. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, we hear you.
Thank you. And good afternoon, honorable representatives from government, dear partners, colleagues from WHO, UNICEF across the MENA region, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I am not only talking to you as a Deputy Regional Director for UNICEF, but I also stand before you as a parent, just like many of you here. And I understand in a personal way the joys and challenges that come in with raising a child in this world in which we live in. We envision this world where each child has the opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive. Yet, we are aware of the sobering realities that many parents in our region face. Over 15 million children are out of school. Around half of all children under the age of 5 are not enrolled in early childhood education programs, and nearly 20% of our children under 5 suffer from chronic malnutrition. Many children are raised amidst conflict, and almost 85% of those aged 2 to 14 are also exposed to violence at home. Close to half of adolescents aged 13 to 15 are bullied. But today, let us look at these figures not just as daunting challenges, but as calls to action. There are opportunities for us to come together and bring about real meaningful changes. For instance, let's consider the issue of parental leave. In some countries in our region, maternity leave can be as short as 10 weeks. In others, it extends to 16 weeks. Paternity leave, where it exists, often amounts to just a few days. Is this reflective of the equal role we envision for mothers and fathers in their children's lives? We have much work to do. You are, and we are at UNICEF, committed to children's rights, as Dr. Maha was underlying, to promoting gender equality and to ensuring that every child gets a fair chance at life. But we cannot do this alone. We need a symphony of voices, a collective effort for everyone here today. To our representatives from the governments in the Middle East and North Africa region, your hands have the power to shape policies that genuinely honor and support the roles of both parents in a child's life. Equally, we need laws that stand firmly against child labor, early marriages, and every form of abuse. Together, even in these hard times of a post-COVID world with growing economic pressures, and for our region in particular, with the continuing conflicts and tensions in many parts, we see the resilience of the human spirit. Together, we can create a world where every child is cherished, every parent feels empowered, and every family is supported. So, in my turn, I want to express my profound appreciation for the exceptional efforts put forth by the Regional Organizing Committee. As Dr. Maha said, it includes the invaluable work done by the WHO Regional Office for the Eastern Mediterranean region, the Arab Network for Early Childhood Development, and the UNICEF Regional Office for the Middle East and North Africa. We also deeply value the dedicated contributions from the Development Pediatrics Unit at Sultan Qaboos University in Oman, the School of Behavioral Sciences and Mental Health in Iran, and the National Family Safety Program in Saudi Arabia. And I would also like to recognize and express our gratitude for the significant efforts of Save the Children International in this endeavor. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to invite Dr. Hassan Isa from the Arab Network for Early Childhood. Dr. Isa is the General Coordinator for the network. Dr. Isa, over to you. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you all. Thank you, Neha, and thank you, Dr. Maha and Mark. I will speak in Arabic, and my slides will be in English. So I will give some time just for the participants to shift to the English translation if they want. I will share my screen. كل الشكر لمنظمة الصحة العالمية ولليونيسف والمبادرة العالمية لدعم الأهل ومقدمي الرعاية على إتاحة هذه الفرصة لعقد هذا الحدث الهام الأول من نوعه في منطقة شرق المتوسط، الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا. بضع كلمات لمن لا يعرف الشبكة العربية والتي تأسست عام 2014 بمبادرة من ورشة الموارد العربية التي كانت قد تأسست عام 1989، وهي شبكة مرنة تضم مجموعة متنوعة متعددة القطاعات ومنظمات المجتمع المدني التي تعمل في مجالات تنمية ورعاية وحماية وتربية الطفولة المبكرة. تعمل الشبكة في 10 بلدان عربية حتى الآن، هي لبنان عبر شركاء، هي لبنان وفلسطين والأردن وعمان واليمن والسودان ومصر وتونس والمغرب، وكما أن لدينا شركاء في سوريا. تتمثل رؤية الشبكة في أن يتمتع الأطفال الصغار في البلدان والمجتمعات العربية بحقوقهم وسعادتهم في بيئة مثرية من الحرية والعدالة الاجتماعية والمساواة. لذلك نعمل على تكوين مجتمعات للمعرفة والمعلومات والممارسة، ومنتدى مهنيا للتعاون والمنادات والمناصرة يعمل على إنتاج المعرفة والبحوث والتدريب في مجالات الطفولة المبكرة التي ذكرت. سوف تقدم الشبكة العربية في هذا الاجتماع رؤية إقليمية لحال الأهل ومقدمي الرعاية في منطقة شرق المتوسط، الشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا. نبدأ الكلام بأننا نتكلم عن دور الأهل ومقدمي الرعاية بالاستجابة للاحتياجات الذاتية للأطفال الصغار بالعلاقة مع محيطهم الإيكولوجي، وهو ما نسميه الوالدية المتجاوبة. من هنا تؤكد المبادرة العالمية لدعم الأهل GISP على أهمية دعم قدرة الأهل هذه، مما ينعكس على حسن حال الأطفال الويل بينج على مستويات عديدة، هي النمو والتطور، التغذية والصحة النفسية، وقف دورة العنف والإهمال، التفاعل الإيجابي، والزيارات الصحية الروتينية، والقواعد الأساسية للحماية الاجتماعية. السؤال الأساسي في منطقتنا هو: ما هي التحديات التي تواجه دعم الأهل؟ لماذا لا يستطيع الأهل ومقدمي الرعاية هنا الاستجابة لاحتياجات أطفالهم؟ تواجه 25 بلد في هذه المنطقة، ومنها معظم البلدان العربية 22 ليس كلها، تحديات مزمنة للمحددات determinants السياسية والاجتماعية والاقتصادية والبيئية والثقافية والجندرية لتنمية ورعاية وحماية وتربية الطفولة المبكرة. وهي المحددات: الفقر والعنف وعدم الاستقرار السياسي وعدم المساواة وأزمة المناخ والتمييز الجندري. وجاءت الجائحة مؤخرا كي تفاقم من تأثيرات هذه التحديات المزمنة. لنأخذ
دكتور
مثلا
غسان،
نعم.
عفوا، إذا ممكن نعمل شير للسكرين ونكون، لأنه السلايدز ما عم يمشوا وما قادرين يكونوا عم بيتابعوا، إذا ممكن إنك تعمل البرزنتيشن ونكون عم نقرب بالسلايدز.
أنا عم بعمل عملت شير وعم بقرب السلايدز من عندي.
Yes, it's not showing. So can we please maybe try to remove the share and try to share again? Or would you like me to share from my side?
فيكي أنت تعملي شير؟
يلا.
يلا. سوري، بس أنا من عندي عم يمشوا. خليني أشوف. أنا بأجزر الحقيقة. عم يتحركوا هلا؟
Yes, now we can see. But if you want me to share in all cases, I can, because we're seeing your entire screen with the next slides.
أنا بفضل أحسن، أنا بفضل أفضل. طيب، بسرعة، كنا نتحدث عن المحددات، التحديات التي تواجه المحددات المزمنة لتنمية ورعاية الطفولة المبكرة، وهي الفقر والعنف وعدم الاستقرار السياسي وعدم المساواة وأزمة المناخ والتمييز الجندري. وجاءت الجائحة مؤخرا كي تفاقم من تأثيرات هذه التحديات. لنأخذ الفقر مثلا. ماشي الحال جريس هيك؟
Yes.
أوكي. لنأخذ الفقر مثلا، لم يعد يكفي تعريف الفقر بأنه الدخل اليومي بما يقل عن 1.9 دولار. علينا إدخال مفهوم الفقر متعدد الأبعاد، الصحي والتربوي والمعيشي، وهما يتناسب مع النظر إلى التحديات التي تواجه إطار رعاية التنشئة Nurturing Care Framework. هو مقسم على هذا الأساس في جميع الأحوال. في قضية العنف مثلا، 6 من أصل 10 بلدان أقل سلاما في العالم هي في هذه المنطقة، 5 بلدان عربية وأفغانستان. كما يتعرض الأطفال في هذه البلدان الستة إلى 80% من الإساءات الموجهة إلى الأطفال في العالم. لنأخذ مثلا سوريا، 12 سنة من الحروب، 14 مليون مهجر ونازح، 20% من لاجئي العالم، 9 من السكان 9/10 من السكان فقراء، 12 مليون معدوم الأمن الغذائي في سوريا، 28% من الأطفال في مناطق الحرب مصابون بالتقزم، و25% من الأمهات مصابات بسوء التغذية. في اليمن 9 سنوات حرب، أكبر أزمة إنسانية خلال 100 سنة الماضية، بحيث هناك 80% تحت خط الفقر. وعندما نتكلم هنا نتكلم عن ما لا يقل عن 60% من عدد السكان اللي هم عائلات وأطفال تحت خط الفقر. 500,000 طفل يعانون من سوء التغذية والجوع الذي يقترب من الموت. 22 مليون يحتاجون إلى مساعدة، و17 مليون معدومو الأمن الغذائي. كل هذه أرقام الأمم المتحدة يونيسف والUNHCR. في لبنان حروب أهلية وإسرائيلية منذ العام 1975. الآن 85% من السكان تحت خط الفقر. فقدت العملة 98% من قيمتها مقابل الدولار الأمريكي. التضخم خاصة في أسعار السلة الغذائية، وهذا ينعكس على الأمن الغذائي أكيد، والأعلى في العالم. نصف عدد سكان لبنان من اللاجئين، 3 مليون من سوريا وفلسطين، إذا كنا نريد أن نقارن مع بضع المئات من اللاجئين في البلدان الأوروبية. في السودان والصومال وفلسطين وأفغانستان نفس الحالة يمكن أن نجدها بالأرقام. تأتي إلى اللجوء. أكثر من 60% من اللاجئين 110 مليون لاجئ في العالم الآن هم من هذه المنطقة، سوريا وأفغانستان والسودان والصومال واليمن والعراق وفلسطين. المهم هنا، وهنا ينبغي التركيز على ذلك، أن 70% من اللجوء يكون إلى البلدان المجاورة، بحيث تصبح موضوع اللجوء يؤثر على كل الهوست كوميونيتيز من البلدان المجاورة. 70% مثلا من سوريا 5.3 مليون في تركيا، 2 مليون في لبنان، ومليون في الأردن، وكذلك الأمر في أفغانستان، بحيث يصبح الكلام عن مشكلة اللجوء إلى أوروبا تعمية على الحقيقة. الصورة العامة لل 450 مليون نسمة اللي في البلدان العربية، معظمهم على الأقل 7 بلدان حروب، فيها حروب تطال 60% من سكانها، 61 مليون يحتاجون إلى مساعدة، 150 مليون تحت خط الفقر، 60 مليون مصابين بسوء التغذية. ونفس الصورة نجدها ل 375 مليون نسمة في أفغانستان وباكستان وإيران. وفوق كل ذلك سوف يكون تأثير أزمة المناخ والاحتباس الحراري والجفاف، وتأثيره على الزراعة والأمن الغذائي الأكبر في العالم على منطقتنا خلال 30 سنة القادمة. كما ينبغي الإشارة إلى أن الأزمات متعددة الأبعاد لا تسمح لأطفالنا بالترقي في سلم التنمية والتطور، بحيث كلما استجد حدث جديد من هذه الأزمات يعود الأطفال إلى المربع الأول وهو البقاء على قيد الحياة. لنعد إلى سؤالنا الأول. كل هذا هو ما يمنع الأهل ومقدمي الرعاية من الاستجابة لاحتياجات الأطفال في شرق المتوسط، الشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا. يصبح السؤال ليس لماذا ينبغي الدعم، وإنما كيف ينبغي الدعم. يصبح أنه لسه الملوح الآن ليس التأكيد لماذا نحتاج إلى دعم الأهل واي، بل كيف تطبق ذلك مع كل ما ذكرت وما يجري. نطبق أقلمة الدعم بحسب الأوضاع contextualization للGISP. أين وكيف بالعودة إلى أسباب الروت كوزز لهذه التحديات والموانع، والتشديد على زيادة الموارد. لنتذكر بأن إطار رعاية التنشئة وأهداف التنمية المستدامة ونتائجها هي عملية واحدة متفاعلة، وبأن النهج الشمولي التكامل الدمجي هو السبيل للاستجابة لاحتياجات الأطفال. وشكرا.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kassan. I know this was very rushed, but a great and quick overview. Thank you, Dr. Maha and Mark, for your opening remarks. Colleagues, this was to formally welcome all of you at this forum, and also with thanks to our colleagues at the Arab Network. You have a very quick picture of the situation in the MENA region for children and adolescents. I didn't introduce myself earlier. My name is Neha Katal, and I will be your moderator for the day today. I serve in the UNICEF MENA Regional Office as a regional advisor for social and behavior change, as also a chair of the parenting working group that runs across for the MENA Regional Office in UNICEF. So just to move on then, for today, we have over the next about hour and so, we will be meeting with some of our global partners who are behind these regional convenings. They've happened in other regions as well. We have our colleagues first from the WHO and the Early Childhood Action Development Network, who will talk about the rationale and evidence behind the global initiative to support parents. And then we will move on to another session on life course interventions to support parents and other caregivers. For today, the focus is going to be very much about establishing a sort of landscape of parenting related work, of evidence, of themes across the MENA region. Tomorrow, we will talk about moving from evidence to policy-related work and how programs have been. On day 3, we are going to be talking about how we can move together as multi-agencies on carving some sort of way forward for improving our programs, for scaling up our platforms and reaching parents. So over the 3 days, there's a thread that runs through a sort of narrative, and we're hoping to come out of it with some sort of recommendations and action points that will help us move together as a group of partners in the region. So with that, we'll start the first set in plenary up to around 2:15, 2:20, where we will hear from our colleagues from the global perspective. So I'll start with inviting Alex Guchat and then Shekufe Zonji and Ananda Jananyo to start. And colleagues, if you will please introduce yourselves. I'm trying to keep my input minimum. I just want to remind everyone who's joined late that translations are available in English when we speak in Arabic translations, French, and also Farsi. So just to remind you, and if you need instructions, please drop us a message If you have questions, please drop them in the chat box. There was a question around sharing of resources. Everything will be made available to all the participants who have registered. So you will have access to the presentations and to contact lists that you may need to follow up after the conference. So with that, handing over to Alex, Shekufe, and Amanda. Over to you. Yeah. Alex, do we have you online?
Yes, Mohammed is just bringing up his video presentation.
Great. Okay, so it's a video presentation. Thanks.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Good day to all. On behalf of WHO and the Global Initiative to Support Parents, which I will call GISP from here on, I'm pleased to provide an overview of the rationale for GISP and the underlying evidence. A caregiver is someone closely attached to and responsible for the child's daily care and support. Parents are the primary caregivers for most children, but for those without their biological parents, caregivers can include extended family members. Caregivers also include people working in organized daycare facilities. Supporting parents and caregivers to provide responsive, nurturing care has many benefits across the life course from 0 to 17 years old. Benefits range from optimizing early childhood development and enhancing mental health to preventing child maltreatment and promoting positive social norms. Parenting interventions usually come with clear step-by-step instructions to ensure that they are delivered with close fidelity to model interventions as tested and shown to be effective. They focus on improving the interaction between parents and children by, for instance, promoting communication and play, reinforcing positive child behaviors, avoiding harsh discipline, and supporting child self-regulation and problem solving. The evidence base for parent support interventions has rapidly expanded over the past 20 years. As of 2021, there were 435 randomized controlled trials from 65 low, middle, and high-income countries. These studies show effectiveness across multiple domains of child health, development, and safety, including cognitive and socio-emotional development, mental health, and child maltreatment. These effects are seen in poor and wealthy countries, are equally strong in younger and older children, and are observed in high-risk families, such as single-parent homes or those where children have developmental delays. Looking at the evidence in more detail, this slide shows that based on 131 randomized controlled trials from low and middle income countries, parenting interventions are effective for improving all 7 key outcomes in the 2022 WHO guidelines on parenting interventions. Effect sizes for reductions in negative outcomes range from -0.62 to -2.4, and for increased positive parenting, the effect size is +0.46. Furthermore, when compared to the global evidence, largely from high-income countries, effects in low and middle-income countries are at least as high, and sometimes even higher. Parenting support interventions deliver the core content of interventions through in-person or other means, and then support parents and caregivers to practice and internalize these skills. This leads to improved parenting behaviors along several dimensions, which then produce positive child and adult outcomes and ultimately contribute to societal level outcomes like increased human capital and reduced inequities. All parents need some support, and some parents need all the support they can get. Parenting interventions can be delivered by professional or paraprofessional staff or by peers, and can be group or family-based and standalone or combined with other interventions such as cash transfers. This pyramid shows how parenting interventions can be delivered according to these different levels of need. At the top are intensive interventions, combined in-person, group, and/or digital outreach for those families who need all the support they can get. On the next level down is targeted support for families at risk of developing bigger problems, which can involve family and group-based sessions and digital outreach. The lowest level covers universal support for all parents through the integration of parenting interventions into routine services and through multimedia population-based dissemination channels. To end, we need GISP now to stave off a global parenting crisis by ensuring that all parents and children who need them have access to evidence-based parenting support interventions. In 2021, just a quarter of governments said they were reaching all who need such interventions. This means that most of the world's children and parents are not benefiting from the positive gains that parenting interventions are proven to deliver, and that governments are not reaping the social and economic dividends that can follow from enhanced parenting. Thank you. We look forward to an energizing convening that is the start of an ever-growing drive to scale up evidence-based parenting so that all who need it can access it by 2027. Over.
Thanks to Alex for this great presentation. Again, this will be available. Shekufe and Amanda, over to you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Shekufe. I'm the Global Technical Lead with the Early Childhood Development Action Network, and I'm joined today with Amanda Harmonio. She's the Global Coordinator for the Global Initiative to Support Parents. And it's our true pleasure to be with you today at this convening. This is now our fourth regional convening. So we're really excited to see this happen. And thank you so much for giving us the space and time. So we're here with you today to share with you a little bit about the history of the Global Initiative to Support Parents and Caregivers, why it was established. And it was established during the COVID-19 era, where all of us were coming together, and we noticed that parents were at the front line of caregiving, and there was with services shut down, with very little support around them. We started doing a few donor convenings, and eventually and organically, it evolved into the Global Initiative to Support Parents. Next slide. So the Global Initiative to Support Parents, why did we start this? As we've heard from Alex, there's a strong evidence base for parenting support, and yet only 26% of governments say that they are reaching all the parents who need it, and reaching all parents who need it. So we saw that there was a strong evidence for effectiveness of parenting support programs, yet we are not seeing the reach and the access benefit to all parents who want or need support. So this is, this led us to the idea that there was a global parenting crisis, and we really wanted to build a common platform so that all of us who care about supporting parents and caregivers can come together. So to this end, next slide, please, we created a common global platform for parenting, where we can come together across sectors. So this is not just for early childhood, or not just for adolescents or middle childhood children, but for children across the life course. And it's not about just addressing child protection or just addressing nutrition or just addressing mental health, but rather we wanted to have cross-sectoral, we wanted to bridge sectoral silos to collaborate, coordinate together, advocate, and integrate and efficiently scale quality parenting interventions across the life course. So here, I'm here speaking on behalf of the founding members, who include UNICEF, WHO, the Global Partnership to End Violence Against Children, Parenting for Lifelong Health and Oxford University, and Early Childhood Development Action Network. While we are the founding partners, by no means are we the only, we don't form GISP. Rather, GISP is all of us here today. Anyone who cares about parenting is a member of GISP. And so we came together with the vision to enable all parents and caregivers to access quality, evidence-based parenting support according to their need by 2027. Next slide, please. As you see, I'm not going to go into detail, but here is the theory of change for GISP, that if we come together, if we bring together research from and evidence from early childhood violence prevention, adolescent development, from all these different sectors, and we come together in partnership with parents, children, governments, academics, everyone who's around the table today, and agree that evidence-based parenting programs and the processes to implement them at the different levels of the pyramid that Alex shared in his previous slide, so that at the country level, so that we can catalyze innovation, scale, generate evidence, and advocate for that, so that ultimately, parents can provide nourishing care to their children and adolescents and protect them in the context of reduced child-related services. So really, this is our vision for the Global Initiative to Support Parents, and we're so glad to be collaborating with everyone here today. Next slide, please. So here, just very briefly, we have a lot of partnerships, but what we also have is country efforts that are happening, and we're working across 4 main pillars: across evidence and knowledge, across scaling, across innovation and advocacy. Next slide, please. But what I do want to say really clearly is that GISP is not here to be something new. It is not here to replace anything that's happening, but rather we want to be a platform where we can build on all the existing frameworks and put a lot of momentum, political momentum, and increase the fiscal space around parenting. We really want to attract more financing for parenting support. So we're here to really build across something and build a connectivity across the life course, so that there's connection between the work that's being done by the early childhood community, the adolescent community, and so on. So we're really building on existing frameworks and models. Next slide, please. So essentially, this is what the Global Initiative to Support Parents is. We stand for coordinated advocacy, generating and sharing evidence, innovation, and scale. And our main principles are evidence of impact. We need to make sure programs have evidence of impact, low cost and non-commercial, where possible, open source so that you can adapt to context, scalable and sustainable, and where possible, supporting indigenous and local programs and having policy partnerships. Next slide, please. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Amanda, who can share about some of the pillars of work we've undertaken so far. Over to you, Amanda, to tell us about what we've been doing on advocacy and knowledge. Amanda? Amanda, are you with us? Amanda? Can others hear Amanda? Maybe it's just me.
Shakupe, I don't think we can hear Amanda. At least I cannot.
Okay.
Sorry, it wasn't allowing me to unmute myself, but it is now. Thanks. Thanks, Shakupe, and apologies for that, everyone. So as Shakupe mentioned, I'll be talking about some of the pillars that GISP works on, and the first is advocacy. So GISP is working on a multi-pronged coordinated advocacy effort, including building donor collaborations to leverage existing parenting investments and increase financing for parenting and caregiver support, which targets both public and philanthropic and bilateral investments. So in addition to our work with donors, GISP is also developing open source parenting advocacy tools, supporting country advocacy capacity building, and ensuring that the parenting and caregiver support agenda is represented at various global meetings across sectors as a lead up to the Global Parenting Forum in June of 2024. And we'll be posting some links in the chat in just a minute so that you can follow along and hear more about the Global Parenting Forum as that comes to fruition. So as GISP, and as the global GISP community, and not just the 5 agencies who initiated GISP, we need to come together to elevate parenting and to give it the visibility and recognition it deserves, and begin building the bridges with larger movements to make the investment case for parenting and to articulate the promise of parenting interventions to address multiple outcomes in the Sustainable Development Goals, alongside other interventions and movements that already have political momentum behind them, including climate change, gender and labor movements, childcare, and the care economy writ large. And on this slide, we've got some of our recent events where we were able to represent parenting support at the higher advocacy level, including at the World Conference on Early Childhood Care and Education, and at a high level of dialogue organized by the government of Japan. Next slide, please. Our second pillar is evidence generation and knowledge sharing. And so here we've got the WHO guidelines, which were released earlier this year. And we also have a series of ongoing and future and recent mappings to support evidence around parenting caregiver support, including future mappings in Europe and Central Asia, an ongoing mapping for Africa, Latin America and the Caribbean, and a recent compendium of resources for family and caregiver strengthening in humanitarian settings. Next slide, please. So in addition to generating evidence, we also have been sharing knowledge throughout regions and throughout the world. So this is actually the 5th regional convening that we've put together. We had 2 in Asia, one was in person for Southeast Asia, one was an Asia-wide webinar series. We've had one for Latin America and the Caribbean and Africa as well. So the Middle East is following on these others and building upon this global movement and acting as another knowledge sharing event. And we're really excited to have be facilitating learning events like these. But also in addition to the convenings, we've also been working on webinars, thematic working groups, community practices, and also are still hoping to have a knowledge product for Europe and Central Asia coming up. Next slide, please. And in addition to all of this, another resource for knowledge sharing is the GISP website, which was recently launched. GISP has developed an online global parenting knowledge gateway to host resources such as the WHO guidelines that Alex mentioned, and help researchers, practitioners, and policymakers access evidence around parenting support. And we'll put the link to that in the chat in a minute. You can also see it on the slide there. Next slide, please. And I'll hand back to Shikufe for pillars 3 and 4.
Thanks, Amanda. As you can see, we're working really hard to collaborate and bring together researchers, practitioners, across sectors in these different areas. Our 3rd pillar is around innovation. Innovation is really, really important, especially in COVID-19. We started to see a lot more experimentation with digital modalities, with hybrid modalities where the evidence is still coming in. So innovation becomes really important for parenting. So right now under innovation, partners are collaborating on testing innovations on multiple fronts, including digital and hybrid delivery modalities, improving male engagement, etc. And most urgently, we're currently working on a parenting crisis initiative in response to the growing emergencies. And we have so much to learn from the MENA region. In response from acute to protracted crises where support to parents is often overlooked and not prioritized by the humanitarian sector. And it goes beyond just skill building for parents, but rather to truly understand how parenting and child rearing is completely a changed landscape in these crisis situations. So we're working with partners to build on the evidence base, build partner coalitions, coordination mechanisms, and share open source assets where possible to mobilize funding and support for parenting. And finally, the next slide, please. The most important and the foundational aspect of our work is around scale. So GISP partners right now are working together to develop open source public goods building on existing guidelines, country efforts, and different parenting efforts that can help us coordinate and implement more effectively in countries, and also for us to facilitate learning between countries. And we're currently collaborating on various scale-up efforts in all the countries you see on the right. So I think that's nearly 14 countries together. And we're really looking forward to sharing with everyone, taking a life course approach and a systems approach, prioritizing contextualization, quality, and equity from the start, really centering on the key national country stakeholders, building on the priority parent and child outcomes that countries want. So we're really looking forward to digging deep together around this and making parenting something more systematic across the board. Next slide, please. And then here we are today as part of the regional convenings. As Amanda mentioned, we've had 4 regional convenings, although there were 2 convenings in Asia. And this is our final regional convening. And the goals for the convenings are to share the evidence base, to generate policy dialogue, to promote a whole of government approach and build regional coalitions across sectoral and across the life course, which I really hope we achieve that this week, and I'm sure we will. Next slide, please. And these regional convenings, they are building towards the Global Forum, which is going to happen in June of 2023. For the first time, we're going to have a global parenting forum, bringing together governments from around the world, and for us to really showcase lessons learned from each of these regional convenings. And we hope that the regional convenings help develop a regional agenda around parenting that can be prioritized. Next slide, please. So we hope that through these convenings, we have a common understanding of what do we mean by evidence-based parenting interventions, the rationale to invest in them, pathways for scaling, a commitment for stepping up investment, and establishing any sort of coalition. It doesn't have to be a network, a coalition, a commitment of supporting parents across the life course. Next slide, please. So please join us to advance universal parenting support. As you see, universal parenting support or caregiver support, it cannot be achieved by the efforts of any one intervention, any one parenting package, any one agency, or any one sector alone. And there's so much work to do. So invite you to join us, to join the movement, help us build a global parenting movement together. And if you have ideas for webinars you want to do with us, we collaborate, we welcome you. We have global parenting town halls, we have the parenting newsletter. You can sign up for all of that on our website, www.supportparents.org, or email us at info@supportparents.org. Next slide, please. So with that, I thank you, and I hand it over to the organizers. Thank you again, and we wish you all the best during this regional convening.
Thank you, Shakufe and Amanda, for this quick overview. Indeed, on behalf of all partners, we appreciate all the guidance that we've received and the support from the global initiative. Colleagues, do look at the links that the colleagues have provided, including a link for accessing the newsletter. And we will, this conference has provided us with a mailing list of colleagues who are interested in this area, so we'll be glad to share this with you. We'll move on to the next plenary session, which is on life course interventions to support parents and caregivers. We have 3 speakers here, 2 of them from the Arab Network for Early Childhood. So inviting Grace Boutros and Lara Aude to join us. And we have Chiara Servilli from the World Health Organization as well to speak about different aspects of life course interventions. So really over to you, Grace. I believe you start first. Please do introduce yourselves before you start. Over to you.
Thank you, Neha. So my name is Grace Boutros. I am the Senior Partnerships and Development Coordinator at the Arab Network for Early Childhood. And I will be, sorry, one second. I will be also presenting in Arabic. So if anyone wants to switch to the English interpretation, my presentation is in English, but I will be speaking in Arabic. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can, Grace, and I think we should be able to move through the slides.
مرحبا. فبداية أريد أن أتكلم عن ما هو دور أو ما هي المساحة التي تخلقها الشبكة العربية للطفولة المبكرة. فهي تخلق مساحة تفاعل وتبادل على المستويات وبين المستويات الوطنية والإقليمية والعالمية. وحين نريد أن نتوجه إلى أي مشكلة أو أي مسألة في هذه البلدان، نريد أيضاً في البداية أن يكون لدينا بيانات. ولكن إذا جئنا إلى العالم العربي، البيانات هي غير متوفرة، غير مكتملة، قديمة، غير دقيقة، منحازة في بعض الأوقات، أو لا يمكن الوصول إليها. وفي الكثير من الأحيان هي غير شاملة ولا تعطي صورة كاملة عن الوضع. في خلال الاستراتيجية التي تعمل بها الشبكة العربية للطفولة المبكرة، هناك لدينا 3 مناهج عمل. في البداية هو إنتاج المعرفة، ثانياً المناصرة والشراكات، وثالثاً سياسات التدخل. ونعمل في 5 مجالات، وهي المجالات الأساسية في العالم العربي. بداية حقوق الطفل، والتي هي نراها ونعمل بها في كل المجالات. ثانياً الطفولة المبكرة في الأزمات. ثالثاً التمكين الرقمي. رابعاً التآكل البيئي والتغير المناخي. وخامساً القوى العاملة. اليوم سوف أعرض عليكم حال الأهل ومقدمو الرعاية في 6 بلدان عربية في خلال الأزمات، وهذا أمر مهم لنرى ما هي احتياجات الأهل وما هي أوضاعهم، ليتسنى لنا الأمر أن نكون جاهزين في حال هناك أي أزمات ثانية للاستجابة ولنؤمن الوضع المناسب والاحتياجات الأساسية للأهل. كيف عملنا على هذا البحث؟ عملنا في ما نسميه النموذج الاستراتيجي البحثي، والذي طورناه كشبكة عربية مع شركائنا في العالم العربي الذين تكلم عنهم الدكتور عيسى في البداية. وهو نموذج يتبع خطوات 8. سوف نرى البعض منها اليوم. أريد توجيه شكر خاص للفريق الباحث الإقليمي والباحثين الوطنيين الذين عملوا على هذا البحث، وطبعاً فريق العمل من الشبكة الذي هو تبعه. عن الدراسة، اعتمدت هذه الدراسة منهج نسجي في جمع البيانات. في المنهج أو في الطريقة الكمية استعملنا استبانة توجهت للأهل ومقدمي الرعاية، ووزعها أعضاء وشركاء الشبكة عبر الإنترنت. وأما المنهج النوعي فتمثل بتحليل وثائق وبيانات متوفرة عن حال مقدمي الرعاية والأطفال في خلال فترة الجائحة. وقد أخذنا فترة الجائحة كنموذجاً لمعرفة ما هي الاحتياجات والأوضاع. وكان لدينا 11 محوراً لهذه الدراسة: تغذية الأطفال، المتابعة الصحية للأطفال، استخدام الشاشات للترفيه واستخدام الشاشات للتعلم عن بعد، الصحة النفسية للأطفال وصحة مقدمي الرعاية النفسية، التحديات الذي يواجهها الأهل في الوالدية تحديداً، والوصول إلى خدمات التعليم، الوضع المعيشي للأسر، وأخيراً قدر الوقاية من فيروس كورونا واحتياجات الأهل ودعمهم. تم تعبئة هذا الاستبيان 3645 مشارك من 6 بلدان، هي الأردن، المغرب، تونس، فلسطين، لبنان ومصر. وكان هناك مشاركة في طبيعة الحال، الأم هي كانت المشاركة الأكبر، ولكن كان لدينا مشاركة كبيرة من الآباء الذين هم ملأوا هذا الاستبيان، ومن أقرباء آخرين مثل الإخوة فوق عمر 18 سنة أو الجدة والجد. سوف أعرض بعض النتائج التي هي الأبرز في بعض البلدان وسوف أتكلم عن ما هي الأمور التي لاحظناها في المنطقة كلها. بداية في الأردن لاحظنا أن نصف المستجيبين يواجهون مشاكل في التغذية، وكانت الأغلبية السبب هو عدم كفاية الطعام في المنزل لعدم توفر المال الكافي. وكان أريد أيضا التنويه أن المشاركين في هذه الدراسة كانوا من الأردنيين واللبنانيين والفلسطينيين وأيضا اللاجئين السوريين بالتحديد في هذه البلدان. وسوف نرى أيضا في جميع البلدان أن الصحة النفسية للأطفال تحديدا وللأهل هي من أكثر الأمور التي قد تأثرت. فنرى أنه في الأردن 40% من المشاركين قالوا أن أطفالهم لاحظوا تغيرات في الصحة النفسية للأطفال، وأكثرها كانت مشاكل النوم وكثرة البكاء والتبول اللا إرادي. وبالتالي ومع الصحة النفسية التي تأثرت عند الأهل التي هي بحدود 31%، رأينا تزايد في مشكلة العنف في التعامل مع الأطفال. أغلبها هي مشاكل العنف اللفظي والصراخ وأيضا العنف الجسدي. وأيضا سوف نرى في جميع البلدان أن من أكثر الأمور التي واجهوها هي عدم توفر مساحات آمنة للأطفال كي يلعبوا فيها، أو عدم توفر وعدم توفر ألعاب للأطفال في المنزل، والأكبر هو عدم توفر أي كتب تتوجه للأطفال تحديدا، وكما نرى في هذه الأرقام في الأردن تحديدا. وكانت الاحتياجات الأساسية اللي قال عنها أو طالب بها الأهل كانت في البداية مساعدات مالية، في المرتبة الثانية المواد التربوية وأدوات اللعب، وفي المرتبة الثالثة الدعم النفسي عند الأهل. في لبنان أيضا نرى نفس الأمور، عدم توفر مساحات آمنة، عدم توفر ألعاب، عدم توفر كتب. وكان الأغلب في لبنان وفي الأردن تأثر اللاجئين السوريين في هذه الأزمة وفي الوضع الراهن. ونرى أيضا التغذية قد تأثرت كثيرا في لبنان، وبالتالي نرى أيضا أن الصحة النفسية عند الأطفال تأثرت والصحة النفسية عند الأهل تأثرت. فنرى أن 75% من الأهل ومقدمي الرعاية قالوا أنهم يعانون من مشكلة نفسية، ورأوا على أنهم يصبحون أكثر غضباً، وبالتالي يستخدمون طرق عنفية أكثر في خلال التربية. والاحتياجات هي في المرتبة الأولى احتياجات المساعدات المالية، الأدوات الترفيهية والأدوات التربوية. كان هناك حاجة خاصة في الحصص الغذائية والدعم النفسي والاجتماعي. في فلسطين أيضا نرى نفس الأمور. لن أكرر الحديث نفسه، ولكن أريد مثلا التشديد في فلسطين أن الأشخاص والعائلات هم ليسوا فقط يعانون ويتوجهون في أزمة كورونا، ولكن هم أيضا يعانون دائما من فترة حرب ومواجهات مع قوات الاحتلال في المناطق الفلسطينية كافة، وخاصة في قطاع غزة. فنرى أن الصحة النفسية من أكثر الأمور التي قد تأثرت، والكثير من الأهل قالوا أنهم يعانون أيضا من الإرهاق في فلسطين. ومع الحرب وكل هذه الأمور نرى بطبيعة الحال أن 37% من الأهل قالوا أنهم ليس لديهم أي أماكن آمنة للأطفال كي يتسنوا اللعب. واحتياجاتهم كانت في البداية أماكن وأدوات للعب، وأيضا الدعم النفسي. أما في مصر فنرى أن، وهو أكبر رقم في المنطقة، أن 42% من الأطفال، وهنا أريد أن أقول أن الأطفال الذين نتكلم عنهم هم دون تحت سن 5 سنوات، هم استخدموا أكثر من 2 ساعات على الشاشات في هدف الترفيه. وهذا رقم كبير جدا، خصوصا حين نأخذ في عين الاعتبار ما هي احتياجات الأطفال للنمو. وحين نرى أن ليس لديهم أي مساحات آمنة أو أي كتب، ممكن أن نرى كيف هذا يتأثر كثيرا. ونرى أيضا أن الصحة النفسية تأثرت بشكل كبير مقارنة مع البلدان الثانية. والاحتياجات في المرتبة الأولى أتت في مصر إلى الألعاب والأدوات التربوية والنشاطات عند الأطفال، كما والمساحات الآمنة. ونرى أيضا أن هناك كان 31%، وهي أيضا من أكبر الأرقام في المنطقة، أنهم قالوا قد احتاجوا إلى دعم في التعلم عن بعد. في تونس أيضا نرى البكاء المتزايد والمشاكل في النوم والغضب السريع عند الأطفال، ونرى أيضا أن ليس لديهم أي ألعاب، أي مساحات آمنة، وطالب الأهل كثيرا 48% بالدعم النفسي والاجتماعي لهم تحديدا. أما في المغرب فنرى أيضا رقم كبير جدا في مشاكل التغذية عند الأطفال، وذلك بنتيجة أساسية برقم كبير 21% من عدم توفر المال أو قدرة الأهل على شراء الطعام الكافي لأطفالهم وعائلاتهم. ونرى أيضا الرقم الأكبر في كل المنطقة في البلدان الستة الذين تكلمت عنهم، 84% من الأهل قالوا أنهم عانوا من مزاج سيء وإرهاق شديد. وكانت في المرتبة الأولى احتياجات المساعدات المالية، في المرتبة الثانية الاحتياج المواد التربوية والألعاب والنشاطات، وفي المرتبة الثالثة الدعم النفسي والاجتماعي. نظرا إلى كل المنطقة نرى كما ذكرت. Yes. You need me to wrap
Apologies,
up.
Grace. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think we're a little bit behind. So if you could wrap up in the next 30 seconds.
Okay, I think Niha, you're breaking up, but I will be wrapping up, and I will be sharing the brief and the entire study in the chat for anyone who wants to read more. So النتائج الأساسية، وهنا سوف أنتقل إلى الأمور التي نريد أن التوصيات العامة. أولاً نريد، وهو في حاجة أساسية، إلى الالتفات لاحتياجات اللاجئين كأولوية، والتحضر من قبل جميع الأشخاص الذين يستجيبون للأطفال وعائلاتهم في الاحتياجات الأساسية التي هي تأثرت بشكل كبير. وهناك حاجة للدعم النفسي الاجتماعي، وبالتالي علينا تطوير برامج ومراكز دعم مستدامة وليس فقط في استجابة. وكيف يمكننا العمل على ذلك؟ من خلال الاستراتيجيات الوطنية التي تكون بشكل شمولي على كل هذه المجالات، ومن خلال الالتفات لقوانين حقوق الطفل والتي هي تدعم وتؤمن حقوقهم والاحتياجات الأساسية لهم، كما وتأمين كتب للأطفال، مساحات، والعمل على ذلك من ضمن الاستراتيجيات الوطنية والإقليمية. فهذه أنا. شكرا.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you. Lara and Chiara, hoping that you can keep your presentations to time. We have about 15 minutes to the session. Thank you.
I will be sharing my screen again.
Thanks, Grace. You're saving the day for us.
المبكرة.
Can you see the screen?
مرحبا، اسمي لارا عودة، مديرة البرامج في الشبكة العربية للطفولة المبكرة. سوف أقدم عرضاً حول تنشئة ورعاية الطفولة المبكرة، المبادرات الشمولية والمتكاملة والمتعددة القطاعات لدعم الأهل ومقدمي الرعاية الأوائل للأطفال الصغار. طبعا الوالدية الأمومة والأبوة ليست بالمهمة السهلة، ولكنها إحدى الأدوار الحيوية التي قد يقوم بها الإنسان، والتي تعود بالكثير من الشعور بالرضا والإنجاز. العائلات والأمهات والآباء دائما يسعون لتقديم الأفضل لأطفالهم، ومن ضمنهم العائلات التي تعيش في ظروف الفقر والنزوح واللجوء وعدم الاستقرار والضغط المستمر والأزمات، ومنها الأزمات الصحية والاقتصادية والأزمات البيئية. بالإضافة إلى العائلات التي تعيش في مجتمعات فيها الكثير من التمييز القائم على الجندر والعنف بصفته جزء لا يتجزأ ومقبول اجتماعيا من تربية وتنشئة الأطفال الصغار. طبعا حين تعيش العائلات والأهل ومقدمي الرعاية في الظروف الصعبة وفي ظروف الأزمات، تصبح هذه الأزمات أيضا أزمات داخلية وتنعكس في صحتهم النفسية، وبالتالي تنعكس على قدرتهم في تقديم الرعاية المتجاوبة لأطفالهم الصغار في بيئة مثرية وغنية فيها الكثير من الحب والاهتمام والرعاية واللعب. فجميع الأهل هم بحاجة ويستحقون الدعم، إلا أن الأهل الذين يعيشون في الظروف الصعبة والأزمات هم الأكثر حاجة لهذه المساندة، لأن مساندة الأهل عبر برامج الوالدية تنعكس إيجابيا في نمو وتطور الطفل النفسي والمعرفي والعاطفي والاجتماعي والجسدي، ولها آثار إيجابية كبيرة في صحته النفسية. ولكن حين نقوم بتصميم برامج الوالدية هناك الكثير من الأمور وعبر التجربة التي تعلمنا أن نأخذها بعين الاعتبار. أولها تقديم الدعم النفسي الاجتماعي لمقدمي الرعاية أنفسهم، وذلك لأن مقدمي الرعاية يحتاجون للدعم النفسي والاجتماعي، مما ينعكس إيجابا في صحتهم النفسية، وبالتالي ينعكس أيضا إيجابا في صحة الطفل النفسية. النقطة الثانية هي دائما الاطلاع والأخذ بعين الاعتبار تطور علوم تنمية الطفولة المبكرة والدراسات المستجدة التي يجب إدراجها ضمن برامجنا الوالدية. فالبرامج الوالدية يجب أن تكون في مسار مستمر من المراجعة والتطوير، والأهم أن تستطيع هذه البرامج الوالدية أن تحول هذه المعرفة العلمية إلى أدوات عملية يمكن للأهل تطبيقها مع أطفالهم في المنزل. المرونة نقطة جدا أساسية يجب أخذها بعين الاعتبار في تصميم وإعداد البرامج الوالدية، وخاصة في الدول والبلدان حيث الأهل ليس لديهم أي نوع من الدعم المؤسساتي أو دعم من الدولة من ناحية الخدمات التي تساندهم في القيام بدورهم في رعاية وتنشئة أطفالهم. فهؤلاء الأهل هم تحت ضغط كبير وضغط مستمر، مما قد يمنعهم من التمكن من الانضمام في برامج الوالدية. لذلك على برامج الوالدية أن تكون مرنة من حيث التوقيت، مرنة من حيث المكان، مرنة من حيث توفر المحتوى وسهولة الوصول للمحتوى ونوع المحتوى الذي تقدمه. من ناحية أخرى وبالحديث عن المحتوى، لا يمكن لبرامج الوالدية أن تتمكن من الإجابة عن جميع الأسئلة المتعلقة برعاية وتنشئة الأطفال الصغار. لذلك من المهم التركيز ليس فقط على المعلومات التي تعطيها هذه البرامج، بل أيضا على الأدوات التي تقدمها للأهل كي يتمكنوا من اكتساب مهارات تساعدهم في تلبية احتياجات أطفالهم، ليس فقط خلال توفر البرنامج وأيضا ما بعد انتهاء مدة البرنامج. توفير المساحة الآمنة نقطة جدا أساسية لبناء الثقة، وكي يستطيع الأهل ليس فقط اكتساب المعلومات بل أيضا مشاركة تجاربهم ومواقفهم وممارساتهم في التربية، وهذا التحدي يصبح أكبر حين تصبح البرامج رقمية ويصبح تطبيقها أونلاين. لذلك من الضروري أن تبقي البرامج على هذه المساحة الآمنة للأهل لضمان مشاركتهم الفعالة واستفادتهم من البرامج. وببرامج الوالدية التي توفر المساحة للأهل للتشارك التجارب ولتشارك التحديات والنقاشات، هي برامج نجد الأهل أكثر حماسة للمشاركة فيها، خاصة أنهم يتخطون شعورهم بأنهم الوحيدين الذين يواجهون الصعوبات في تربية وتنشئة أطفالهم. من ناحية أخرى التعرف على أدوات في تربية وتنشئة الأطفال ومقاربات في تربية الأطفال من أهل آخرين يشجع الأهل على تجربة هذه المقاربات وهذه الأدوات أكثر من الحصول عليها من مصادر أخرى. استمرارية التعلم هي نقطة جدا أساسية، وهي إحدى التحديات التي نواجهها. ماذا يحصل بعد انتهاء البرنامج؟ ومن الحلول الممكنة هي إنشاء قنوات لضمان استمرارية التواصل مع الأهل ما بعد انتهاء البرنامج. في هذه القنوات يمكن بث معلومات عبر مقالات، عبر أدوات مرئية ومسموعة، عبر قنوات متعددة، قد تكون مواقع إلكترونية أو وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي. وبهذه الطريقة يمكن للأهل أولا العودة لزيارة المعلومات التي اكتسبوها خلال البرنامج واستعادتها ومراجعتها، وأيضا قراءة المزيد والتعرف على المزيد من التقنيات والمعلومات المتعلقة بتنشئة الأطفال الصغار. وطبعا لا يسعنا إلا ذكر أهمية أن تكون البرامج نابعة من المجتمع المحلي، أنتجها متخصصون ومتخصصات أيضا من المجتمع المحلي، مما ينعكس في اللغة، في شكل البرنامج، مقاربة البرنامج، طريقة التطبيق، نوع النشاطات، نوع دراسات الحالة الموجودة داخل البرنامج، ونوع المواد المساندة من وسائل مرئية ومسموعة ومواد يطرحها البرنامج. نقاط أخرى تفيد وأساسية لضمان استمرارية برامج الوالدية. أولا أن تكون برامج ليست ذات كلفة عالية، وبنفس الوقت فعالة وفعاليتها مثبتة وقائمة على الأدلة. سهولة الوصول للبرنامج ومرونته، الاستمرارية في مراجعة البرنامج وتطوير البرنامج بشكل مستمر، أن يكون البرنامج سهل التطبيق، وأن يبني البرنامج على قدرات المجتمع المحلي من مؤسسات محلية، مراكز محلية، مراكز خدماتية ومؤسسات أخرى للاستمرار في تطبيق البرنامج ما بعد مرحلة التجربة وما بعد التمويل. من البرامج التي طبقتها وتطبقها الشبكة العربية للطفولة المبكرة برنامج الصحة والتربية والرعاية لصغار الأطفال، وهو برنامج شمولي تكاملي يتناول بصيغته الرقمية حوالي 38 موضوع له علاقة بالتربية المتجاوبة، بالحماية، بالتعلم المبكر، بالصحة النفسية لمقدمي الرعاية، الصحة النفسية للأطفال. برنامج صحة والتربية والرعاية صغار الأطفال توفر سابقا بصيغة يطبق على الأرض في المراكز وجها لوجه عبر جلسات مع الأمهات والآباء. أصبح الآن وبعد كوفيد-19 متوفر رقميا، وهو عبارة عن مقرر موجود أونلاين يتوجه الأهل إليه، يحصلون على الجلسة ويتناولون الجلسة بأنفسهم بمفردهم. تتضمن الجلسة ألعاب تفاعلية، تتضمن رسائل صوتية، تتضمن فيديوهات، أسئلة وأجوبة. وبعد الاطلاع على الجلسة، اطلاع الأم والأب على الجلسة، يتوجهان لاتصال مباشر مع متخصص أو متخصصة في مجالات الطفولة المبكرة أو الصحة النفسية لمناقشة ما تعلموه خلال هذه الجلسة وربطه بمواقفهم وممارساتهم في تربية أطفالهم. وتتجه الشبكة الآن إلى تجربة مقاربة جديدة في تطبيق البرنامج، حيث تدمج ما بين الجلسات الرقمية وجلسات مباشرة يتم تطبيقها في المراكز والمدارس على الأرض مع الأهل.
Thank you very much, Lara. Appreciate it. And we will have the...
Yeah, I stopped the presentation just to keep the timing, so I shortened the video. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Kiara, over to you.
Thank you very much. Just trying to share my presentation. Okay, thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here with you today and to have an opportunity to say a few words on caregiver support and parenting with a specific focus on what is useful when we look at mental health outcomes of children, adolescents, and also as a mediating factor, the caregiver's mental health. I'm Chiara Servili from WHO and specifically the Department of Mental Health and Substance Use in Geneva. Do you see my screen well? It's quite crowded from my end. I'm not sure. Do you see it well? Yes, good. If we describe the approach, when we describe the approach to strengthening mental health promotion, prevention, and care, we recognize two key pillars. One is about improving access to services, to quality services. The other pillar is about improving quality of the environments where children and adolescents live and grow. And parenting is an important element for both these aspects. This pillar is important for services because intervention engages parents, as well as is an important element when we think about improving the quality of environments for children and young people. WHO has some guidance or guidelines, which are called the MHGAP guidelines for non-specialist primary healthcare providers on assessment and management of priority mental and neurological conditions, also including children and adolescents specifically. And parenting and caregiver skills training are important recommendations among the evidence-based recommended intervention and as part of management protocols for children and adolescents. And specifically, parenting and caregiver skills training is recommended for children and adolescents with behavioral disorders, including attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and conduct dissocial disorders. It is also recommended for children and adolescents with emotional disorders and for parents of children and adolescents with neurodevelopmental disorders, including intellectual disability and autism. I want also to highlight, as it is mentioned before, the WHO and also the MHGAP guidelines specifically recognize the importance of managing caregivers' mental health and depression in particular to improve child development outcomes. The MHGAP intervention guide includes some guidance on how to deliver these parenting key messages as part of the routine outpatient care for children and adolescents, but there are also some specific implementation tools and intervention manuals that have been developed by WHO along with collaborators over the past few years to facilitate the implementation of these guidelines recommendations in the field. And in the next few slides, I will briefly introduce some of these intervention manuals. The first one is the Thinking Healthy program or intervention guide. It is a manualized intervention. It's evidence-based psychosocial intervention targeting caregivers' depression, and particularly during the perinatal period. It provides some instructions on empathic and sensitive communication with women and their families, and also mobilizing and providing social support. It is based on cognitive behavioral therapy, and it involves 16 sessions delivered by community health workers. This intervention was originally developed in Pakistan by Professor Atif Rahman and teams, and was also tested in RCTs in Pakistan. And you will hear more about this intervention in the afternoon. Another such manualized intervention is the WHO Caregiver Skills Training. It targets children 2 to 9 years of age who have developmental delays and developmental disabilities, and particularly those who have impairments in social and communication domains. The aim is to increase the caregiver's ability to promote their children's development and well-being through shared play and home routines. There is also a specific focus on caregivers' well-being and acceptance from caregivers of the child's delay and developmental disability. Again, it is designed in a way that it can be delivered by non-specialist providers, including community-based workers and peer caregivers. This is the package as it appears as published on the WHO website. It has been developed based on extensive field testing in countries, including in the EMRO region. And this is the structure and content. So it's delivered through 9 group sessions and 3 home visits. And the content is really focused on promoting shared engagement through everyday activities and play, promoting communication, promoting adaptive behaviors, teaching skills for everyday life and caregivers' well-being. There is an e-learning version that is also available on the OpenWHO website, and there are many translations that have been or are being developed. When we move from parenting for younger children to parenting for adolescents, it is important to recognize the role of parenting for improving also adolescent mental health outcomes. And the Helping Adolescent Thrive initiative and the toolkit document in particular was developed by WHO together with UNICEF, and it provides some guidance on how to strengthen programming for adolescent mental health promotion, for prevention of adolescent mental health conditions, as well as risk behaviors. There are 4 key strategies. One strategy is specifically about caregiver support. And the toolkit provides more about what is evidence-based parenting and caregiver support elements where we look at adolescent mental health promotion and prevention. And here there are the key aspects as they are described in the toolkit, with recognition of the importance of positive parenting skills, including positive discipline strategies, family cohesion, family social network, the adolescent caregiver communication and relationship, and also again, the caregiver mental well-being as an important aspect of parenting for adolescent well-being and mental health. The last intervention that I'm going to describe briefly is the Early Adolescent Skills for Emotion. It's not yet published on the WHO website, but will be available in October this year. It has again been developed on the basis of available evidence, extensive consultation, as well as field testing, including with RCTs. 2 RCTs have been conducted in the region, 1 in Jordan and 1 in Lebanon. In this case, this is an intervention that is not about promotion and prevention, but it is about addressing internalizing problems, in particular depression and anxiety, in young adolescents aged 10 to 14. It is CBT-based, and it is delivered in groups. It has 2 components. There are sessions with groups of adolescents, as well as there are sessions with caregivers, and particularly there are 7 group sessions with adolescents and 3 with caregivers. The caregiver strategies, which are more relevant here, include content around promoting praise, alternative to harsh management, self-care, emotional identification, and promoting quality time with the caregivers. You will be able to find more about this intervention also in the published peer-reviewed journal. And again, watch out for this to be published soon in October this year. It has been a brief presentation, but I'm really excited about the opportunity to contribute to this effort and to look also at parenting in an integrated manner and how it relates to mental health for children, young people, and caregivers. Thanks.
Thank you, Chiara, and thank you doubly to you, Lara, for keeping your presentations short. Thanks, Grace, as well. So, colleagues, the last plenary session for this afternoon, which focused on life course approaches, and we saw an impressive selection of research programming approaches and platforms and tools that you could use. And I think some of the links have been posted here. There are also some questions that are coming in. We don't have a lot of time to do direct questions now because we're over time and we do want to respect your time. So we will go into the next session here, but I would suggest, colleagues, if you could please post your questions to everyone, and colleagues who are responding, if you could reply to everyone so that we all have the benefit of the information that you are providing. We will see if there is a way to come back on some of these questions and to respond to them in plenary or in the breakaway sessions, but definitely hope to come back to all of you with answers. So with this, thanks again to all the plenary presenters. We are going to go now into breakaway sessions. We now have 5 sessions and a very, very exciting set of speakers from many different countries, representing government, representing universities, INGOs and NGOs and civil society organizations. So 5 different sessions, and Katie, our colleague here who's been supporting us at the back end, just check if we have the list out there. I think there was a slide that you were going to put up. You have made many of you have, if not all, have made the selection on the different themes that you'd like to join, the groups. There is a group on supporting parents in the early years, so an ECD focus. A group 2 that is focusing on supporting parents of adolescents and adolescents as parents. So that's the second group. A third group on gender responsive parenting and discussions around this. A fourth group on parenting for children, adolescents, and families exposed to specific risks and life circumstances. And a fifth group on supporting caregiver mental health. Each of these groups has moderators. We have Grace from the Arab Network. We have Muhammad Abu Suleiman from UNICEF, Mahamuna from UNICEF as well, Watfa Almari from the Sultan Qaboos University, and Dr. Khalid Saeed from WHO, who are moderating each of these sessions. So you will be directed to the rooms. You have about 55 minutes to come back with a small break incorporated in the sessions. The moderators will be taking notes and will come back on some highlights from the discussion and any recommendations and action points. So for the moderators, you will have about 3 to 4 minutes when you come back to plenary to present your points. So please do focus on the most priority recommendations and actions. So colleagues, we wish you a good session and looking forward to hearing back from the moderators about the discussions that you have in each of these sessions. So our colleagues supporting the IT will now direct you. Yeah, to our colleagues at the WHO end who are supporting IT, I think there was a bit of a problem here. Said the breakout rooms were closing. Group A, that's the one focused on ECD, will stay in the main room that we have today.
Okay, our colleague here in the IT is directing everyone into breakout rooms. And for those who will stay in Group A on Nurturing Care and Action, that would be in the main room. And he's opening the breakout rooms for B, C, D, and E, where you can, you will select and choose which one to join.
Thank you, Katie. That's Katie Annis, who's supporting all of the preparations for this meeting. Colleagues, please bear with us. It's a big group and we're trying to make this as smooth as possible. While you wait,
Neha, maybe it's good to clarify that people, if they click on more, you can go to breakout rooms and you can go yourself into one of the rooms.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if you go on the more and then there's little dots and then you see that's unassigned, you scroll down and then you can assign yourself to either group E, you can say move to,
Great.
You can join one of the groups because I
Thank
think
you,
otherwise it might take some time.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sabine. Colleagues, I hope you got that. If you click on more, the three dots at the bottom of your screen, and click on that, you'll get a little menu which says also breakout rooms, and you can go from there into the breakout rooms that you want. That's right. Group A will stay in the main room, and Grace, you will be moderating.
Je vois qu'il y a une question en français pour comment joindre la salle B. Si vous allez sous Zoom dans More, vous allez voir qu'il y a une fonction Breakout Rooms. Et donc là-dedans, vous pouvez choisir, vous pouvez vous joindre au groupe A, B, C, D ou E. En fait, ceux qui restent ici sont dans la salle A, dans le groupe A, qui est sur la petite enfance. I think Fatima had a question on which room she could join for particular populations of refugees, for example. I would suggest you join room D, which is on groups of specific risks. Is there anybody that's in room A, which is on supporting parenting in the early years, that doesn't want to be in room A, group A, because otherwise I can move them to another group? Maybe just put in the chat. Salim, you want to be in D? Let me see if I can move you. We have many people in room A. I think it would be nice if people can reassign themselves to other rooms to have this one as a smaller group.
Sabine, I think that perhaps the functionality of moving to the rooms is not there for the rest of us. I'm not able to move to any room. So it's available only to a few people. But I do think that most participants have been assigned now, or at least half.
So Niha, I'm not sure who's moderating this session, but you probably want to get started because I think most people have moved into their rooms.
That's right.
Yes, I am seeing that we have, sorry, Niha, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Grace. Actually, I wasn't sure if you were there, but it is Grace. And go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm just confirming that some people are still joining the other rooms. I was just talking to a few of the other moderators. So I think we have people are still moving in. But Grace, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay. I see we still have 96 people in the room with us. So if you want to stay, you are more than welcome. You already met me. I also want to present Binza Joel, who will be co-moderating and taking notes. Our session today this session in Group A is more about the cross-regional context and the nurturing care framework and supporting parents specifically in the early years. And we have three presenters with us. We have Dina Al Khalil and Dr. Ahmed Idris from Oman, who will be sharing about the nurturing care and action in Oman specifically. And we have Dr. Raja Bahez, who will be presenting about nurturing care in Saudi Arabia. I want to start by giving a general overview and very briefly say that in the past years, and IRC, Save the Children, UNICEF, WHO, and ANECD worked together on a report that was launched in November 2022 on advancing nurturing care in humanitarian settings and an overview of workshops in Arab countries. And there were 4 workshops in 5 countries, in Iraq, Jordan, Palestine, and in Syria. 5 workshops, but I mentioned 4 countries because in Syria we had 2 workshops. The purpose was to advance commitments to ECD and highlights the efforts that were being done in these countries. The organizations came together in 2021 and to foster country-level action to support the national task teams in the countries to organize a multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder workshops on ECD and ECD actions and policies in their countries. Of the participants, we had governmental and non-governmental stakeholders across health, education, protection sectors who were agreeing on the priority actions to provide children nurturing care within each context of the country. The actions focused on policy, as I was saying, but policy implementation, data collection, and how this data can be used, on multi-sectoral collaboration, on governance mechanisms, and increased sustainable investments. This initiative of the 5 organizations led to a foundation that reached maybe 3 goals, if we want to say. 1, exploring the opportunities and identifying the potential that various sectors can do in providing services and programs that will provide holistic care for children and their families. 2, encouraging the dialogue across these different sectors. And 3, enabling learning and exchange between the different stakeholders. Definitely, these workshops had immediate effects. For example, in Iraq, the ECD strategy was in fact finalized and published by the government. In Palestine, the existing ECD strategy was expanded to include a strengthened ECD governance and an ECD committee in Palestine. And in Northwest Syria, for example, the education cluster added ECD programming to its education strategy for 2021-2023. Of course, this initiative and the workshops that happened and the report that was launched are only setting the base, because we still have many things to do further. For example, we have a critical need for the national and subnational leadership to truly optimize ECD in humanitarian settings. There's another need for donors to provide long-term and sustainable ECD funding. And on the third need, there's still a need for all relevant actors to work together continuously towards a common ECD vision to support the children and their parents in each Dina Al-Khalili, who is the General Manager in Al-Jisr Foundation in Sultanate of Oman, and Dr. Ahmed Idris, who is a pediatrician, and they will be presenting about Oman. I will give you the floor, and you can also share your screens. I think Dina wants to start. Dina, you want me to unmute you, or you're able to unmute yourself? Okay. I'm not sure. I cannot unmute you.
Okay, it worked. Hi, Grace. Hello, everybody. Thank you all very much. I just wanted to mention that Dr. Ahmed and I have a combined presentation, and he'll be playing it from his end.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for the organizing committee for allowing us to present on this very prestigious conference. And myself is Dr. Ahmed Idris, developmental pediatrician at Sultan Qaboos University, and my colleague is Ms. Dina Al-Khalili, General Manager in Al-Jisr Foundation. We'll be talking today about nurturing care in action in Oman. The nurturing care framework is composed of 5 components: adequate nutrition, response caregiving, security and safety, early learning, and good health. If we had a look at the countdown to 2030, they set the indicators for the nurturing care framework. And if we look at those indicators, we can see that the country is doing greatly well in security and safety, with a birth registration of almost 100%. In regards to health sector, you can see that at that time, the treatment of HIV in pregnant women had no data at that time. However, 1 year back, Oman has been announced as the first country in the region to eliminate mother-to-child transmission of HIV and syphilis. At the area of early learning, we can see that early childhood education can be better approached. In regards to the early initiation of breastfeeding, it was really great, with 82% of women started early initiation of breastfeeding. But to continue on that, the exclusive breastfeeding needed to be improved. This figure is really affected by multiple factors. For example, if you look at the Oman data, we can see that the labor force participation rate for females is almost 30%, which is double the average in the MENA region. And that's one of the factors that affecting this. Lastly, at the responsive caregiving, we can see that multiple activities need to be conducted, and basically data are really needed on this area. One part of that data, and which is considered a challenge, that only 68% of children in Oman are developing on track. On the other hand, we have a major opportunity, which is almost all the live births receive a health check while in health facility or following delivery, either at home or in healthcare facilities. That will give us the impression that the health sector can act as a potential entry point for scaling up the nurturing care framework in Oman. While we are doing that, we need to keep in mind that the health system itself, 70% of its determinants are lying outside the health system. It depends on the economic stability, the social construct, and the environment, and education, and so other. That's why the philosophy of upscaling nurturing care in Oman has been incorporated into Oman Vision 2040, which set the framework for the governmental sectors to work together and basically to work in collaboration with private sectors and NGOs supported by the international organization. All these metrics are working all together to reach a common goal. I will leave the stage here to Ms. Dina to give us one example from Al Jisr Foundation on how NGO is taking this into action in collaboration with the other partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Hello, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to highlight our foundation's work and programs that aim to support families in Oman. Allow me to quickly introduce Al Jisr Foundation. Al Jisr means bridge in Arabic. We are an Omani private foundation that focuses on charity and sustainable projects in health, education, and social welfare. Al Jisr's core mission is to empower communities, ensuring that everyone has equal access to opportunities. And our ultimate vision is to serve as a trusted catalyst for sustainable impact and positive change throughout the country. Here you can see a quick summary of our mandate. To achieve our mission and vision, we have defined two main focuses. We have a charity side that covers social affairs, widely known as Band-Aid philanthropy, but is essential as it touches on the family's security and safety through our various charity aspects that ensure families lead a decent life. We have relief initiatives in providing rent and ration payments of utility bills, school tuition, and relief initiatives for prisoners, as well as housing. And then on the other hand, our sustainable programming with the three areas of focus. At the bottom here is what we have in place to maximize our impact. Though they're interconnected, in the next slides, I'm going to focus on examples of productive partnerships and collaborations. We believe in a multi-sectoral approach, and we always aim to maximize our impact by leveraging the potential partnerships and collaboration, in some cases as initiators of projects and in other cases as supporters. We've also gone through a couple of internal exercises to ensure that our projects align with national priorities like Vision 2040. It's also worth mentioning that the Jisr committed to the UNGC in 2018, making our foundation the first Omani NGO to sign it. We also find that our projects often contribute to some of the SDGs, at least goal 1 through 4, and through enhancing partnerships and multi-sectoral action, contributing to goal 17. I'd like to highlight two special partnerships we have in place. The first is with WHO Oman office. Our healthcare-centric program focuses on non-communicable diseases, treatment and prevention of. Al Jisr signed an MOC with WHO in 2021 that would span 3 years. We call it the Health Project. A main focus area is the prevention of the NCDs. To maximize the impact, we agreed to focus on 3 areas: nutrition, physical activity, and mental health. But of course, it has very specific objectives, which I won't get into right now. The main beneficiaries of the project are children under 5 years and their families, as well as school children, adolescent girls, and pregnant women in terms of nutrition interventions, as well as the youth, the community at large for all proposed intervention areas. It goes without saying, of course, that close collaboration with the government is mandatory to ensure alignment with national priorities, sustainability, and ownership. The second partnership is with Sultan Qaboos University, SQU. We signed almost a year ago to fund the establishment of a pediatric development center. And I'm not just referring to it because of my SQU colleagues present here today, but because what makes this collaboration exceptional is the fusion of the civil institution with the public sector represented by this esteemed academic institution. This collaboration goes beyond merely advancing medical knowledge and research, as it is dedicated to providing unwavering support to children and their families and a nurturing environment where they can find solace and empowerment. With a primary focus on early detection, intervention, disability reduction and management, this center will prove to be an invaluable resource for parents. From providing guidance and counseling to offering practical assistance. We've also ensured to include concepts like the Family Education Unit, Patient Care or Patient Experience Center, and assistive and immersive technologies. My last slide provides country-level examples of more programs that were developed to support parents and their children. On the left here, you may recognize this manual as we've joined forces with SQU and WHO to advocate for care for child development. Through the adaptation of all the training material, we aim to develop a nationally contextualized CCD package that will be validated and then recommended for use by all service providers working with children aged 0 to 3 years in Oman. This is currently. We also hope to support the rollout of the training of caregivers and supervision strategy for the care for child development approach. We've also funded the participation of parents of children with autism from all over Oman to the Gulf Autism Conference, GAC 2020. This ensured their access to information and opportunities, in addition to bringing these parents together to create a support group of their own. We've also provided grants to local NGOs, mainly the Association of Early Intervention, to ensure that their crucial services continue being offered to children in need free of charge. The logos on the top are awareness campaigns, the exclusive breastfeeding campaign, and the National Nutrition Campaign. These are partnerships with the Ministry of Health. In addition to supporting the implementation of health promoting schools with WHO and the Ministries of Health and Education. At the end, I would like to say that through our meaningful partnerships and impactful programs, we continue to build bridges of hope, empowerment, and positive change for families in Oman. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina and Dr. Idris. Now I do want to note that if you have any questions for any of the presenters, you can put them in the chat, whether you want to put them in English, Arabic, or French. I am able to translate. And we will have a space for discussion and in the end. Yes, I will try. Dr. Idris is trying to unmute himself. Okay. We will be taking the questions at the end. Now I do want to present Dr. Raja, Professor Raja Abahat, who is a professor in the ECD department in the University of the King Saud. Dr. Raja. We also need to unmute you. Yes. Okay.
مرحبا، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يعطيكم الصحة والعافية ومرة شكرا للاستضافة. هعمل شير سكرين. حابة أعمل ريبريزنت ل واضحة عندكم الشاشة؟
نعم، إذا ممكن إنك تعملي فول سكرين.
أوكي. حابة أتكلم عن مجهودات مجلس شؤون الأسرة في رعاية الوالدين والطفل. المجلس تم إنشاؤه بقرار من مجلس وزراء في المملكة العربية السعودية 443 بتاريخ 20/10/1437. هذا المجلس هو يتخصص في تحقيق رؤية 2030 للمملكة العربية بأننا نطور ونعمل develop and improvement level في الخدمات المقدمة، خاصة في اللي هو الخدمات الاجتماعية والاقتصادية للأسرة كافة. المجلس يتكون من 4 لجان رئيسية: لجنة المرأة ولجنة الطفل، لجنة كبار السن، ولجان المناطق. حتكلم بما أننا هنا متخصصين في الوالدية والمتخصصة في لجنة الطفولة، هي التي تهتم بالطفل وتحقيق رؤية الوالدين. تتكون من عدة مسارات هذه اللجنة، من 10 مسارات رئيسية، وبرضو تتداخل مع القطاع الخاص، القطاع الثالث في التنمية الاجتماعية. وهذه المسارات تكون في اقتراح ودراسات الأنظمة والتشريعات ذات العلاقة بالطفل في المجتمع وفقا للمتغيرات الاجتماعية اللي احنا بنشوفها في رذم مرة سريع بيصير عندنا في المملكة العربية السعودية، في العالم العربي، في العالم أجمع. اقتراح وتنسيق المبادرات على المستوى الوطني المقدمة للأطفال، خاصة في تحقيق سلامة وحمايتهم على الإنترنت ودعمهم. التوعية بحقوق الطفل، التحقق من قيام الجهات الحكومية والأهلية ذات العلاقة بأدوارها بما يحقق الأهداف المنشودة. يعني المجلس هو جهة تشريعية متابعة وليست تنفيذية، هو يتابع جميع الجهات إن كانت حكومية أو أهلية أو خاصة وقطاع ثالث، كل في تخصصه بقيامه بالمجهودات اللي تخص في الطفولة. أيضاً ندعم الدراسات الميدانية ذات العلاقة وإعداد التقارير عن جهود المملكة حول الأطفال. يهمنا جدا في بناء قاعدة المعلومات الوطنية عند الأطفال، وهذه إحدى المشاريع الرئيسية التي بدأ فيها المجلس من اللبنة الأولى من اتخاذ قرار من 2018. طيب، ما هي مبادرات الأسرة؟ مبادرات الأسرة تهدف إلى تعزيز الهوية الوطنية والقيم الأسرية مع الاختلافات اللي بنشوفها الكثيرة التي تحدث في العالم العربي والعالم العالمي. بنلاحظ إنه تأثرت بعض القيم والإسلامية في المجتمع، فبالتالي يهمنا جدا برؤية 2030 المحافظة على هويتنا، الرفع بقيم الأسرية واكتساب أولياء الأمور مقدمي الرعاية المهارات والأدوات التي تمكنهم من حفاظ على أسر مستقرة، وتكون هذه الأسر أيضا متماسكة. الوصول الشامل لكافة الأسر لجميع الخدمات والتمكين في كافة المناطق المملكة من خلال العمل على السياسات المفعلة للأسر والمجتمع. نعمل حملات توعوية لتعزيز الهوية الوطنية للقيم الأسرية وحوكمة وتنظيم سياسات الأسرة، ويهمنا أيضا تكون في أدلة إرشادية تساعد الأسرة والمجتمع. من هذه المبادرات خرجنا بمجموعة من الأطر والأدلة والحملات، 3 سياسات، 11 إطار عمل، و6 أدلة إرشادية، 9 حملات توعوية. طيب، عندنا الأعمال المنجزة للجنة الطفولة بالمجلس. أول حاجة عندنا سياسة حماية الطفل من التنمر. كثير تعرضنا للأطفال والحديث عن الأطفال، التنمر والسايبر بولينج والبولينج والى آخره، فبالتالي كان في هنالك سياسة متخصصة في المملكة العربية السعودية حماية الطفل من التنمر. سياسة المتاحف الصديقة بالطفل، سياسة التطوع المدرسي، وبدأنا مع الأطفال الأصغر سناً وراح نبدأها بالتدريج في جميع المراحل المدرسية. إطار عمل الإنترنت الآمن للأطفال، كيف بالفعل الأطفال يدخلوا يحافظوا على أمانهم وسرية المعلومات الخاصة فيهم. إطار عمل إعلام الطفل، وكيف بالفعل حنشرحها في السلايدات الجاية. حملة توعوية الوالدية فاعلة، حملة توعوية لكبيرنا عزيز، دليل إرشادي للطفولة المبكرة، دليل طفلي بأمان في كل مكان، دليل نلاحظ ونحمي. التربية المبكرة كان هدفها إنه تعزيز رعاية الأسرة لأفرادها في بيئة تحترم دور كل فرد وتلبي احتياجاته. يعني كثير جدا بالذات في هذا السيشن نهتم بأولياء الأمور، فبالتالي كان مجلس شؤون الأسرة في لجنة الطفولة كيف تعزز دور الأسرة في بيئة تحترم كل الأسرة بعضها من بعض وتلبي هذه الاحتياجات مع المجتمع. أيضاً عملنا دراسة عن المدرسة الآمنة. إحنا كأولياء أمور بنرسل أولادنا للمدارس، وفي بعض الملاحظات على هذه المدارس. كانت هذه الدراسة كيف كأسرة تحمي الطفل في المنزل وفي المحيط، ويهمنا أيضاً في العالم السبراني. عملنا أيضاً كلجنة الطفولة في مجلس شؤون الأسرة إطار وطني يعني بسلامة الأطفال على شبكة الإنترنت، وكيف نحافظ عليهم في السايبر بولينج، بالتنمر الإلكتروني، كيف ممكن بالفعل يحفظوا معلوماتهم، هويتهم، ما يشاركوا أي أحد معلومات خاصة فيهم مالية أو صور أو كأسرة أو أي معلومات سواء كانت صغيرة أو كبيرة، مهمة أو غير مهمة، جميع معلومات الطفل إحنا بالنسبة لنا تكون مهمة. أيضاً عملنا على الدليل الإرشادي، نلاحظ ونحمي، تمكين جميع العاملين في القطاع الصحي والتعليمي في المملكة العربية السعودية من الكشف عن حالات الأطفال الذين يعانون من مشاكل نفسية واجتماعية ومتابعة هذه الحالات. يهمنا جديدا الكشف المبكر على الأطفال وكيف يتفاعل معها العاملين في القطاع الصحي والتعليمي، كيفية عملية التبليغ، عملية المتابعة إلى آخره، لنحفظ أطفالنا وهم بالفعل ثروة البلد. حملة الوالدية الفاعلة، وكانت هذه ريسنتلي التدخل والتفاعلية المصممة للتوعية وإرشاد الوالدين ومقدمي الرعاية لتوفير بيئة أسرية. هذه البيئة تنمي مهارات الطفل وقدراته، تعتني بصحته النفسية والجسدية وغذائه. لو لاحظتوا احنا دائما بنقول ما بس يهمنا الصحة الجسدية، يهمنا الصحة الجسدية والنفسية، وأيضا يهمنا الغذاء لهذا الطفل. في الحملة الوالدية الفاعلة تمكنت يعني خلينا الأسرة تتفاعل معنا بتمكينها من بناء علاقات متينة وتفاعلات إيجابية فيما بين أفرادها، لتنشئة أبناء أسوياء قادرين على التفاعل مع المجتمع بشكل فعال. وأيضا كان من آثارها تحقيق تنمية سليمة لهذا الفرد على المستوى الجسدي والنفسي والاجتماعي والعاطفي، أي يهمنا الطفل من جميع الجوانب. أيضا تنمية أفراد فاعلين ومؤثرين في المجتمع. لو بنينا بالفعل طفل سليم في الأسرة، راح يكون هذا الطفل سليم في المجتمع عن طريق تعزيز واستقرار الأسرة. كيف نحقق ذلك؟ أول حاجة يهمنا جدا أن نبني علاقات سليمة صحية مع احتياجات أبنائنا. ومعلومة مهمة جدا، أبنائنا ليس ملك لنا، أبنائنا هم نبر بهم حتى يبرون بنا، نعرف احتياجاتهم، بالتالي نمكنهم من تحقيق أسر متماسكة، بالتالي هم حيكونوا صحيين في تحقيق مجتمع متماسك. مراعاة أساسيات الوالدية الفاعلة من ارتباط عاطفي واجتماعي ونفسي مع الوالدين، نشاطات تدعم نمو العقل، فرص مهمة ومختلفة لاستكشاف العالم من حولهم. كأسر مهمنا جدا أننا نشارك هذه الاستكشافات ولا نتركهم أنهم يستكشفوها مع الغير ويقعوا في مخاطر. أيضا في إطار إعلام الطفل، إعلام الطفل مهم جدا. المحتوى ركزنا كمحتوى في الوسائط المتعددة المصممة للأطفال لجميع الأعمار من الولادة حتى سن 18 ليضمن حمايتهم وتنميتهم. هدفنا تشجيع إنتاج ونشر مواد إعلامية ذات جودة عالية خاصة بالطفل وحمايته من المحتوى. يهمنا جدا في المملكة العربية السعودية أن نعرف المواد الإعلامية المقدمة للطفل بحيث تكون ذات جودة عالية، والتي فيها أي مفهوم خاطئ أو يخالف القيم يتم منعها من جميع الجهات الإعلامية. رفع وعي أولياء الأمور ومقدمي الرعاية والمعلمين وأطفال أنفسهم. لو رفعنا الوعي عند الأطفال نفسهم، راح بالتالي هم يساعدوا في استقرار الأسرة ويساعدوا في استقرارهم في المجتمع. ويهمنا أيضا المعلمين أنهم يكونوا مشاركين في العملية، تزويدا بالممكنات لاختيار محتوى جيد للأطفال. شكرا ويعطيكم الصحة والعافية للاستماع.
شكرا بروفيسورة رجاء. نحن بعد we still have some time to take some questions if someone would like to say something in the chat or go ahead, and maybe right now we can more discuss how we can advance these great initiatives that you three presented, and how we can advance the nurturing care action in the region and in the countries in the region, to have more evidence, to have more strategies and better approaches. Yes, Dina, you wanted to answer verbally about the question of Bernadette. Go ahead.
Did it work again? Hi. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off like that. I'm just keeping track of the questions on the chat. One of the questions from Bernadette was about the CCD. So how the CCD intervention is implemented and as part of routine contacts, group sessions, home visits, who are the providers that support parents, and what are the experiences in sustaining the quality of care that they can provide. I would only share our experience. Dr. Ahmed, of course, I would say can start with the background of this activity, because it started with SQU and then Al Jasser Foundation joined in funding certain activities. So if we can also unmute Dr. Ahmed, please.
Yes. Thanks for the audience, and thanks Dina and Grace for giving us this opportunity to reflect our experience in Oman about the nurturing care framework. Actually, to put that into context, in Oman we had like multiple discussions among multiple stakeholders. It took us a long time to have this into place, because basically we wanted to be like having three main ideas. First, multidisciplinary. It should be multidisciplinary. Secondly, it should be inclusive, and it should be having like major equity on it. But that's why, while we are designing this CCD programs, we took those thoughts into consideration. And what we wanted to do, we didn't want to take the governmental bodies to do it alone. We wanted to take the NGOs and the private sector with us also. Dina is, like, I would say that one of the biggest supporter for this, but basically a lot of NGOs has been participating on this. To put it into practice, what we try to do, we try to design a training with multiple stakeholders, and those stakeholders representing multiple governmental and non-governmental bodies on health sector, on educational sector, on social response sector. And then each one of them will upscale the CCD program in their own area. And while we are doing that, we did a side exercise with the team at Jasser Foundation and WHO Oman office. And that side exercise is to have the program, the CCD program, adapted to the Omani context. While we're doing that also, we created a group of, I would say, champions and leaders to take that step further. And those champions and leaders, as I said, they represent different stakeholders and different geographical regions. And then each one of them is having the opportunity to upscale it on their own level, and while everything is being monitored from central team. That, in short, I don't know if any further question can be raised.
Thank you, Dr. Idris. Any more questions? I guess maybe one of the very important aspects we need to take into consideration when we are doing any scaling up, especially on a policy level, is to maybe think of what are the challenges that are faced and how to overcome these challenges, and how to expand this learning to all the region. So I don't know, Dina and Dr. Idris and Professor Raja, if you have any challenges you would like to share with us, and tell us what have you done to overcome these challenges that can be shared and can be a learning opportunity for all of us here.
Yeah, I think, sorry. I think one of the major challenges which I would really like to ask the team here, and as we have like multiple representatives from multiple areas, is the collaboration between different stakeholders. While we know that the CCD or even the parenting support has been shared with multiple stakeholders, and there is a bit of share on each entities. Each stakeholder has a bit of share on it. Then how to integrate those approaches into one comprehensive programs, and to make sure that in doing that with collaboration of integrating the indicators into that, to make sure that we are going on the right direction. I think this is a major challenge, at least with us, and I would like to hear from the others how they overcome that. Back to you, Grace.
Professor Raja, what about you? What about Saudi Arabia?
اوكي بالنسبه لنا احنا بالفعل انا اتفق مع زميلي مجلس شؤون الاسره يعني بدا بالفعل من اهدافه انه كان في تنظيم المجلس كان في ريبريزنت من كل واحد من الوزارات، فكان بالفعل عمليه الحصول على المعلومات في مكان واحد عمليه صعبه جدا. فأتفق أنه في الوزارات، في الهيئات، القطاع الثالث، القطاعات الخاصة، ففي مختلف الناس اللي بتشتغل في نفس الاريا وكل واحد بالفعل يحتوي المعلومات، فهذه إنك تحطها في مكان واحد عملية صعبة، وبالذات إذا تخدم الطفولة وتخدم أولياء الأمور. فنتفق إنه بالفعل فمجلس شؤون الأسرة بالنسبة لنا في المملكة العربية السعودية بيحاول إنه يجمع القطاعات الحكومية، وكان هو بالفعل في مجلس المجلس التنظيمي للمجلس انه كان بالفعل ريبريزنت من كل وزارة ومن كل هيئة وفي يعني من القطاعات الخاصة، بحيث انه نجمع المعلومات والداتا. هو مشروع كبير بس انه ما في شيء مستحيل. هذا واحد. الحاجة الثانية انا اؤمن كمان بعملية التوعية، فاحنا دائما بالفعل لازم نبدأ خطوة قدام انه نوعي الاطفال من هم صغار. عملية التوعية الآن يعني مثلا أنا رايحة في جهة ثانية يمكن اللي هو عملية التوعية في الإنترنت، في الإعلام، في القيم، بالذات في الوقت هذا في القيم. فجميل جدا إحنا مركز علينا في الفيجن 2030 في المملكة إنه عملية القيم، عملية حماية الطفل، كيف ممكن بالفعل نحافظ هذه على الثروات. الوعي والتوعية مهمة جدا من الوالدين، من مقدمي الرعاية لهؤلاء الأطفال، ونحاول باستمرار عملية التحدث معهم، المحادثة معهم، نفتح طرق أبواب مفتوحة كثيرة. الأبواب هذه المختلفة عملية الحوار توصلنا للوصول للأطفال، بالتالي نعرف إيش الممكنات والمخاطر اللي ممكن هم يواجهوها وننتبه لها من بدري.
شكرا بروفيسور رجاء. Dr. Ghassan Isa asked the question to all of you, if you can elaborate on the research on the implementations that you are doing.
Yeah, basically, in regards to research, to be honest, we divided the research into two categories of research. First, we tried to do like a CAP study as a baseline and then to be followed up. A CAP study about, currently we are just collecting the data. I think we are midway here. To do it before the implementation and then after the implementation to make sure that where we reach in terms of community understanding about those concepts. That's one. The second thing is we used the mixed survey, اللي هو multiple indicator cluster survey. The data that I have been presenting here is from the mix which has been conducted in Oman in 2014 and published in 2016. And I believe that now they are repeating those mix. We use those surveys which has been done internationally and regularly as indicators. And then we have now the prior data, and then once we are doing the intervention, then we can see whether those indicators has been improved or not. And other than that, we are using our own CAP survey, which is happening in the community as well.
شكرا.
If you have any suggestions, please, Dr. Ghassan. I think you have all the experience on this.
أنا يعني بحب يعني نناقش أكثر، يمكن مش فيش مجال بهالمؤتمر، بس هذا بيفتح مجال نقاش أكثر معكم ومع الجسور بالإمبلمنتيشن وبالريسيرش. يعني بهمنا كثير هذه العلاقة، إنه من هون ورايح يكون شغلنا بالمنطقة العربية evidence based، لا يستند إلى الخطابية بهذا الموضوع. فلازم يعني إذا فينا نشوف طريقة يعني نحصل ونناقش مع بعض اللي عم تعملوه وشو فينا نساعد بالشبكة، أكيد نحن حاضرين. وأكيد هذا يعني مع البروفيسور رجاء أكيد يعني الشغل بالسعودية على هذا الموضوع يعني مهم جدا، وعندنا معلومات عنه كمان. يعني حابين كثير إنه نفتح علاقة بهذا الموضوع بطريقة علمية كمان أكثر. شكرا كثير دكتورة بروفيسور رجاء. بس أكيد دكتور أحمد ودكتورة ودينا ودكتورة رجاء رح نتواصل ما بعد المؤتمر، لأنه اللي عم تعملوه مهم جدا ولازم ياخذ حجم أكثر يعني وشغل أكثر.
شكرا كثير دكتور. احنا من ناحية المؤسسة يعني كونها مؤسسة أعمال خيرية ولسه داخلين جديد على موضوع ال sustainable programming، يعني I could say we started in 2018 موضوع الشراكات والشراكات من أجل التنمية وما إلى ذلك. فالكاباسيتي تبعنا كتير ليميتد. بالرغم من ذلك يعني احنا بنصمم انه يكون البرامج تبعتنا تكون evidence based، بس هذا الايفيدنس نعتمد على الشركاء يوفروا لنا اياه. الشركاء بطبيعه الحال لما نكون بدنا تسكيل اب لازم تكون الحكومه، فبنعتمد على الداتا من الحكومه. و I think it is the issue everywhere where data is limited and things are underreported. بس زي ما حكى الدكتور أحمد، يعني بالنسبة للبرنامج CCD هذا بالذات the CAP survey is going on. في background information from previous surveys that were done من ناحية النيوتريشن مثلا. يعني الكامبين اللي احنا داخلين فيها مع وزارة الصحة is based on a nutrition survey that took place in 2017، وعلى أثرها صار الديجيتال كامبين هذا بالمسجات المصممة يعني خصوصا. I'm with you and I look forward to further collaboration. Thank you.
بروفيسور رجاء، دكتورة فاطمة الزهراء كانت طرحت سؤال بالتشات عن شو هي المنهجية اللي اعتمدتها المملكة العربية السعودية لتعزيز استقرار الأسرة. And I do want to, so Dr. Fatima Zahra asked the question about what is the strategy that Saudi Arabia used to ensure there is a stability within the family. And I do want to mention that within 4 minutes, all the breakout sessions will come back to us. So if you can, Dr. Raja, answer the question and be ready so everyone can come back to the main session.
المنهجية اللي احنا اتبعناها في المملكة العربية السعودية في مجلس شؤون الأسرة، زي ما قلت اللي هو مجلس شؤون الأسرة كان في عمل استراتيجية خاصة بالأسرة. المشاركون في الاستراتيجية جميع الوزارات التي لها يعني مختصة بالطفل، مختصة بالمرأة، بكبار السن، بالأسرة عامة. ففي ممثل من كل وزارة كان موجود وممثل للاستراتيجية. تم عرض هذه الاستراتيجية على كل الهيئات، على كل الوزارات، وبالتالي أخذوا الفيدباك منها، تم تعديلها وتم يعني go back and forth كذا مرة. الأسر شاركت فيها، الأطفال شاركوا فيها، الأمهات شاركوا فيها، المرأة، إلى أن وجدت بالاستراتيجية بالموجودة على موقع شؤون الأسرة. إذا الجميع يحب يدخل على موقع مجلس شؤون الأسرة، في استراتيجية الأسرة فيها جميع المجالات والطريقة المنهجية اللي تتم تبعها الوزارات المشاركة، الناس اللي تشاركت معنا، الكل يعني مرأة، طفل، أسرة كاملة في جميع مناطق المملكة تم مشاركتهم في الاستراتيجية.
شكرا. اوكي، هنحاول اني اشوف اذا في any more questions.
برنادات عم تسأل أسماء من تونس.
Okay. Asma, do you want to unmute yourself and actually share? I can maybe.
وفيها تحكي بالعربي.
Yes, and you can speak in Arabic.
Hello?
Not trying to. Yes. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes,
Hi.
عم نسمعك.
Bonjour.
Go ahead. اتفضلي.
سوري دكتور غسان، كيف حالك؟ كيف حال الجميع؟
اهلا اسماء.
اهلا، ماني محضره حالي مش محضره روحي باش ندخل. شكرا. انا اسماء من تونس. اشكر الجميع على التدخلات وعلى to share all of this experience and هذا مسعد جدا ما نسمع الدول العربية لتقدم الإنجاز في الدول العربية كل ما يخص استراتيجيات الأسرة والطفولة المبكرة والتربية الوالدية. احنا في تونس أنا حبيت to share with you some des acquis وإلا feedbacks after implementation of positive parenting program in Tunisia. أقدر أقول يمكن أكبر أشياء أنجزناها وتحديات ما زالت في مستمرة معناها نريد أن نرفعها، اللي برامج كل ما هو علاقة بالأهل ماني سهلة. يجب تحليل الواقع تحليل جيد، القيام بعدة دراسات ميدانية. احنا قمنا مع اليونيسف مع الورد بانك بعدة دراسات evidence based كاب ستادي، معناها دراسات ميدانية اجتماعية تربوية ما قبل الانطلاق البرنامج. عملنا الميكس اللي هو يعني مع المسح العنقودي مع اليونيسف. مؤشرات عندنا تشايلد انفود هي معناها منظومة تونسية تقوم بتجميع جميع المؤشرات بصفة رقمية من الوزارات وجميع الهياكل الحكومية وتحليلها. يعني أخذنا وقتنا كتير قبل الانطلاق في البرامج على أرض الواقع. درسنا كما قلت، اخترنا يكون البرنامج modeling it's معناها experience in 4 region in Tunisia. Just about modeling approach. يعني أربع مناطق هي مناطق نموذجية أما تمثل يعني الجمهورية التونسية ككل. زاد مناطق ما هيش كلها تركز على نفس المؤشرات، لأنه إذا شغلنا بالطبيعة كله شغل مندمج متعدد القطاعات والاختصاصات، يهم قطاع الصحة، التغذية، الحماية، الرعاية، الرضاعة الطبيعية، التربية. يعني اخترنا زاد من في هذه المناطق نركزوا على بعض المؤشرات وباش باش ما نضيعش كثير في التنفيذ، يعني باش يكون قادرين to follow up معناها الامبلمنتيشن and to evaluate الاوتكمز نتاع البروجرام تاعنا. يعني هذا هو المخرجات.
I think all of us are now back in the plenary, so
okay.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Dr. Seth, for alerting us.
We stuck to the time you gave us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I think everyone.
3:25, so we made a hard stop at 3:25.
Thank you. Sorry.
I do think that there are some people still in the breakout rooms though, because I think there's like 32, 36 in group D, 32 in group E, 18 in group C.
I think everyone should be about to be coming back because we've had quite a few dropouts actually now. So sorry, Grace, and sorry to the colleague who was speaking. But thank you, Dr. Said. Yeah, I think everyone should be, yes, they will close. There you go. They'll close in about another 50 seconds. So we'll just give it another 45 seconds. So Grace, if you wanted to close your discussion, you can. 45 seconds.
Yes, no, I think this is like everything was very, very important, and we will definitely share the recording. We will share the presentations for anyone who was in different groups, and we would love to see what different groups were discussing, because this is really one of the founding steps to how we can really advance all the nurturing care and all the action and make it actually applicable. And Dr. Dina and Dr. Idris and Professor Raja presented two very interesting and ambitious, if I might say, initiatives in Oman and in Saudi Arabia. So thank you for your presentations. Neha.
Thank you, Grace. Thanks. And I think now mostly everyone is back in the room. We're now at about 190, I think, in the room. So that's good because we know many people dropped out. So we're at 3:30 p.m. We have 30 minutes and we really want to honor everybody's time. We realize taking out this time from your schedules is difficult, and staying alert and awake and for 3 hours online is a big commitment. So we'll really request all the moderators to be as brief as possible. 3 minutes, please. Highlights of the discussion, any recommendations or key actions that came out. And once you speak, also requesting you to please either put it in the chat box or to email it to us, the whole partners team, so that we have that with us. So we'll start, what we can do is we'll mix it up a little bit. So maybe we'll ask Dr. Khalid Said to come in first, since they were ready at 3:25 sharp. Is that okay, Dr. Khalid Said? Okay, so the floor is
yeah, thanks. So the session was around caregivers' mental health. And we had 3 speakers, Professor Atif Rahman, Dr. Rabi Al-Shamai, and Dr. Iman, and who sort of dwelt and took us a bit more into the interventions and the packages which are available for caregivers' mental health, ranging from Thinking Healthy program, essentially directed towards mothers in childbearing age. And then we talked about CST, the Caregiver Skills Training Program, and the experience of Egypt. And Rabia took us through some of the experiences in Lebanon of different psychosocial interventions and the plans to scale them up. So the message basically here was that mental health is one of the key components, not only of health, but in parenting programs, is a key component. And I was looking at the presentations and discussions during the plenary earlier, and this was one of the points which was coming up repeatedly, and this was further highlighted during the COVID pandemic, that mental health is not only should be seen as an expense, but should be seen as an investment. An investment in the intergenerational, it's an intergenerational investment. So making an investment today in parenting programs would pay dividends for a long period of time to come across generations. So that's why I think that is one key message which needs to be highlighted. Second is that there are interventions available which are evidence-based, and the need is to bring in more resources to make sure that they are scaled up, not as vertical interventions, but as interventions which are integrated across health and social care sectors. And sustainable financing and human resources are provided to back it up. I think those are the 2 key things which were highlighted. I think one of the issues which was brought out by the 2 presenters particularly, or rather actually the 3 presenters, was technology can be a great leveler. And we need to sort of look at it in more detail, and maybe we need to have more evidence to make sure that interventions which are delivered using technology, do they have the same effectiveness, and or is there a voltage drop when we use technology rather than face-to-face interventions? And but the one key thing which was identified as a area which needs further work is the involvement of fathers, because it seems most of the interventions seem to be directed towards the women caregivers rather than involving both caregivers, men and women. So I think that was one area which was highlighted that needs further work and further research on it. Thanks, and over to you, Neha.
fantastic. You stuck to exactly 3 minutes. I think if there was a prize, maybe you might be in the run for it. Let's go to group A then. Maybe Grace, if you could come in. 3 minutes. You have to beat this record.
Okay, so basically our session was on the
supporting parents in the early years, and we were specifically talking about the nurturing care framework and how nurturing care can be in action. We had two examples, one from Oman, presented by Dina Al-Khalil, who is the General Manager of Al-Jisr Foundation, and Dr. Ahmed Idris from Sultan Qaboos University Hospital. And we had a presentation from Professor Raja Bahafiq from Saudi Arabia, who was also talking about nurturing care in action in Saudi Arabia. Both of them shared how evidence and research is very important for us to be able to learn more and be able to make more actions, but also how bringing different stakeholders and how Al-Jisr Foundation and the Family Council in Saudi Arabia was bringing these different stakeholders. And that was challenging because bringing everyone, having all the data in one place is very challenging, but nevertheless, it is definitely worth it. And Dr. Idris was speaking about the importance of these early years to setting the base for all of life. And how these different sectors are important. We also had a small intervention because we were discussing how this can be replicated and can be expanded and how we can learn from these initiatives in the region. We had a small intervention as well from Tunisia, who was also talking about implementing positive parenting programs and how this can be done on a more country level. So thank you. I stuck to less time.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Thank you, appreciate it. And if there are any recommendations or actions from your group, you do write them down in case you haven't yet formulated them as a team, recognizing that the group A was the largest group and not everybody had a chance to speak. So feel free to put it in the chat. So let's move on. Maybe this time, if you're ready, let's look at group B. That's Mohammed Abu Suleiman from Focus.
Yes.
On License. Go ahead, Mohammed. You have 3 minutes.
Thanks. So Neha, we covered 2 topics. They sound the same, but they're totally different. One is parenting of adolescents, and the other one is adolescents as parents, or with more focus on adolescents, pregnant women. So the first one was presented by Tagreed from TDH and Equimendo. Cody presented with her, and it's more into intergenerational violence preventive program in Jordan, covering the Syrian refugees and the Jordanian host community. And they had a methodology that works around like gender transformation, but also emphasizing on the communalities around all forms of violence, linking VOW and VAC, and also doing life skills-based programming. They have addressed gender roles and socialization, emotions and expression, the power dynamic within the family, and identifying violence and conflict resolution. They have, throughout the process, they came up with a lot of adaptation to the program, including culturally appropriate reference and approaches, family-oriented design, and intergenerational and mixed gender, and catering to parents of adolescents. And they came up with a lot of interesting findings and lessons and more to come up, especially around this intention to action and sustaining behaviors. When you achieve good results, how you sustain it in a long term. The other session was around Amal Initiative, which is Adolescents Mother Against All Odds, and Amal in English means hope. So this approach of meaningful participation of pregnant adolescents and first-time mothers in crisis settings, with more focus in Syria and Nigeria. And an Amal initiative focus on creating a community for those targeted population by creating young mother clubs, community members, health providers, and an Amal adolescents leadership. It was presented by Barry from CARE, and they created also a community advisory group. They were measuring not the act itself or the practice itself, they were measuring more drivers of those behaviors with more focus on self-esteem, self-efficacy, confidence in achieving something and doing some kind of positive change. And they have almost doubled all the baseline data they had with positive results across the two areas. And we know that crisis settings are extremely difficult to achieve positive results within a time or one initiative, but has been going on for 2 years, which is another lesson that we need to continue doing programming, long-term programming with focus on drivers of behaviors rather than continue messaging people around one behavior. That's it from the two presentation. They were interesting presentation, and I think they're also in the share link, and I advise everyone to look at them. Thanks.
Thank you, Mohammed. Again, any kind of recommendations and actions that you may think of later or might come back to you, please do share them in the chat or send them to all the partners so that we can already start generating those recommendations. So yeah, thank you. Maybe if you don't mind, Maha, we can move to Wakfa. So we've moved in a little bit of a crisscross way.
Yes, good afternoon, Neha. I'll try my best to summarize my points. So our group was about parenting for children, adolescents, and families exposed to risks and specific life circumstances. So all kinds of challenges that parents might face. We had 4 wonderful speakers. We started with Ra'ed Ataya, who have presented, actually give an overview about parents. He focused on parents as a critical part for programs in general. They have to be involved from the start to finish in the program designing, strategies, and even in data collection. Dr. Izank and Dr. Sobia Masoud presented a very nice program that was established in different countries, including Sudan, Turkey, Pakistan, and currently even in Ukraine, about parenting lifelong health. The program, according to their main message, that has to be contextualized to affected population and capitalize on maximum contact, including schools and social media. There were challenges, as expected with this kind of, category of population, especially in time of crisis, like the low literacy, the poor income, and things like this, which they tried with some micro grants from NGOs to support. We like the quote from Dr. Nahid Al-Atiqi about, parents of children with disability, which indicates that raising a disabled child can feel like running a marathon where the finish line is constantly being moved farther away from you, and no one is cheering from you, and no one seems to get what is hard for you. It really might reflect a lot about these families, and she gave an overview about some of the roles of the different stakeholders, different participants from government to NGOs on supporting children with disabilities. She suggested, and as we all face maybe in the Middle East region, that we have deficiency with regionally contextualized parenting programs, especially in Arabic language, and this is one of the I think messages that we should carry on. Also, they highlighted nicely the role of NGOs, not only at a governmental sector, but the role of different communities in different population have really merged in very nice, I would say, projects and outcomes. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Watfa, for also sticking to the time limit. Amazing moderators. Maha, you have the floor for the last feedback, knowing how important gender is and gender socialization is. The floor is all yours to share with us.
Thank you so much. And I'll stick to the 3 minutes, but I have to say the material that we covered was really, really very rich. And we had a very interactive session with lots of discussion. We started out by defining gender responsive parenting and looking into how gender responsive parenting can be challenged a little bit more for gender transformative parenting as well. And so to introduce that, Aisha explained that there are these modules that have been developed by ISSA and UNICEF. She reflected on a regional meeting that we had here in Jordan, where we drew on experiences from Lebanon, Tunisia, Egypt, Sudan, across the region. And she highlighted the importance of parenting alliances, the alliance between the mother and the father, the agreement on gender socialization, on the skills that they bring and the understanding that they have. And she pointed out that when you have a parenting alliance that can be supported by policy, by frontline service providers, it can also have an intergenerational impact, including on, it's really stemming violence in the home, and then having children who do not accept violence in their partnerships as they grow up. Then Esma went deeper still into the parenting, looking specifically at engaging men and fathers in the, especially in the early childhood development phase. She reflected for us on the Jordan case of Plan International and the important lessons that they have learned. They really interesting lessons in terms of the policy frameworks that can support fathers, including parenting, parental leave, having programs that are open for fathers according to their time, the way that we name the programs. They have such rich experience that is really evidence-based, drawing on the programs that they have. Also looking at the power and privilege within the home and how that can impact the way the father is a role model for boys in the home, can be somebody who supports mothers with caregiving, and how that can really have a positive impact, not just in the early childhood, 1,000 days, but through the life course. Then we shared a video from Iraq by War Child, where they recognized that sometimes it's difficult for mothers and fathers to come to centers that we organize. And so they took their programming to a factory, where the factory allowed them to have an entire room, engage with mothers and fathers. And I love the way that their motto was, you know, it's never too late. We can always do better to engage the fathers. They've seen some amazing changes in the relationship between fathers and mothers, and seen also positive change in the well-being of children involved in the program. And want to thank all presenters that were part of the program and all of the participants that engaged in the rich discussion. Back to you, Neha.
Thank you, Maha, and really a big thank you to all the moderators for making it very short. We've actually made up for some of the time that we were behind, so really, really appreciated it. A big thank you to all the presenters. I mean, I had a chance to just walk through some of the rooms and really just catch snippets of presentations, which were really very interesting and exciting. And I think all of us will really benefit from looking through all the sessions. So colleagues, we're drawing to the end of day one. We have about 10 minutes left. We have a little video as well to show you, but I thought maybe just a very quick run through of the key highlights. Unless anyone has a burning point, a red flag, a major concern, I will then just quickly summarize the day's points that have come up. We have noted all your questions, so I'll just wait if anybody has anything burning for a minute. You didn't know when you signed up that you had to stick with us for almost 3 hours without a break. So perhaps many of you are ready for your breaks. So we'll make this short and sweet. If you have no questions or burning, comments, then maybe just a quick summary. If you do, I'll stop. Question or two. All right. So colleagues, we just started the day with some great opening remarks from WHO, UNICEF, and the Arab Network. I think Dr. Ghassan, you laid out a very good basis for us to locate a lot of the discussions that followed. We had excellent updates from the Global Initiative and from WHO, and some links to excellent resources. A couple of things that stood out to me at least was 453 RCTs across 65 countries that are providing now compelling evidence on what works and really making the case for parenting support work. And I think this is such a powerful data point to take back to respective ministries and also to make the case for multi-sectorial action. This juxtaposed with the another data point on only 26% of governments saying that they're reaching all parents who need it, really again highlights how urgent it is for us as a group to move on the parenting agenda. I think we heard about the many parenting challenges in the region. We heard some excellent work, some new research, some programming approaches and tools for life course-based approaches for parents and caregivers. We really think this is the foundational approach to the work that we all do on parenting. And also, if I may say so, a principle in the way we approach parenting. I think moving on to the different feedback that we got from the 5 sessions, again, some points that stand out really are the huge number of tools, experiences, intervention design, and evidence around it that is available. Some things stand out for me. The CST package, the gender responsive parenting package, the HEPP program that our colleague Lara talked about, the ease approach, I think that's linked to the CST package as well. Points that stood out also is the need for mental health as critical, father's engagement, and it's interesting to see the cross connections where the gender responsive parenting group came back with actual tools. So I hope that we will be able to pull these together. But examples of father's engagement, meaningful participation of adolescents also in parenting programs with adolescents as parents, but also parenting programs for adolescents. Measurement was something that I heard. Technology, also the high focus on early years, at least two groups have talked about this. And at the end of the day, the sectorality of approaches. So really bringing together different ministries. In fact, this was one of the attempts that all of us as partners were trying to do, is inviting ministries of health, ministries of education, of social affairs, or social solidarity to really join these discussions. So I think I want to then maybe end today just noting the work that a number of different partners have done. There's a whole fantastic team behind pulling together this for day one. It's always difficult the first day, trial and error. We're not sure things will work. So just a big thanks to the IT team behind it and to Katie and colleagues who really, pulled together the slightly messy afternoon of shifting here and there. I do want to acknowledge, and I know that 3 organizations started the opening, but I do want to acknowledge the work of the global initiative in supporting all of this from the back end, and that includes the Parenting for Lifelong Health Association, the Global Partnership for Violence, and other organizations, of course, UNICEF, WHO, and the ICNAT, the Early Childhood Action and Development Network. So we do have many other colleagues who joined us from PLAN, from ISA, from TDH, CARE, Equimondo. We have our government, universities, NGO and NGO partners from Oman, from Saudi, Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, Lebanon, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and then of course colleagues from the UK and US. So just to acknowledge that it's really a steering committee of many, many different partners. I know some are speaking more or are more visible in the opening and closing, but really all of us coming together on this. Tomorrow, we have an equally exciting lineup where we take some of the concepts and the foundations and really move from the idea of what evidence exists to policy and programming at scale. And some of this you've already heard, whether it's the feedback from Dr. Khalid or others, on how do you program at scale. So some very concrete examples coming also tomorrow. So stay with us, do come back, and we will call today a day unless anybody from the organizing team, Dr. Hassan, Dr. Khalid, if you have anything to add, and of course, Aphrodita from UNICEF and Katie, who's really been holding us together. If you have anything else to add.
I want to add that it's a great start. Thank you, Neha. And I think it's a landmark in GISP in our region. Thanks to all. Thank you.
Fantastic. Anybody else wants to come in? Dr. Hala, just for today? Okay, we'll.
Neha, just
Yes.
yeah,
great.
it was great, and let me thank you specifically for the great moderation of the day. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. We will end off, colleagues, with a video from Lebanon on the Qudwa program, which is a new is a program for parents on ending violence against children. So we'll start that. I think my colleague Mohammed has this ready. Mohammed, am I right in saying this? And we will let you go after this video. Have a very, very pleasant evening and look forward to seeing you all back tomorrow. So Mohammed, over to you for the video.
صندوق قدوة بتحسيه وسيلة سهلة بسيطة من خلال الأدوات اللي بقلب الصندوق تفوتي موضوع الجلسة. شنو شايفات بهالصورة هاي
طفلة صغيرة بدها تترك ألعابها لحتى تلبس الفستان وتتزوج.
تساعدك على تفتحي حوار مع النساء وهن بتحسيهم بيشاركوا أكثر. يعني قدرنا نوقف أكثر من حالة مثلا بسن ال 15 وال16 انخطبوا، قدرنا نقنع الأهل إنه هالشيء مضر لإلهم، مضر صحيا، مضر نفسيا، مضر على مستوى الحمل والولادة. مقتنعة أنت يعني بالنهاية؟
يعني مقتنعة؟
طيب برافو. جلسات أول شيء غيرت فيني أنا، ولما بلشت أعطي للنساء أكيد حسيت عندهم قبول لإلها. إحنا مو بس إنه أعطينا الجلسات، ضلينا متابعين معهم، لقينا إنه فعلاً عم ينفذوه، يعني من خلال بيتهم، من خلال عائلتهم، ومن خلال المجتمع اللي حواليهم.
صار عندي توعية إنه أعرف كيف ربي أولادي. نحن انظلمنا ونحن صغار، ما قدرنا نتعلم. بقول للجيران، للجارات، يعني في جارات ما بيعرفوا، يعني وحتى أولادي بصير درس عليهم، قل لهم بكره بس تكبر يصير عندكم اولاد. يعني حتى جوزي عنده توعيه، بقعد انا وياه بنتحاكى.
لما قالوا لي تعطي جلسات كنت خايفه، فتت على مخيم شافت واحده من السيدات وبايدها العصاي،
قلت لك ما عاد فيني راسي ما يتحمل.
نحن وقت نعنف اولادنا نعرف تاثيره على المدى القريب والمدى البعيد. عظم الولد شو بيكون لسه مو مكتمل. ولما اعطيت الجلسات عن العنف مع عنف، هي لحالها تدريجيا شافت تاثيرها انه بتخسر ابنها وبيصير في مسافات بيناتها وبيصير عدم الثقه، لحالها تلقائيا كبت العصايه.
لما بتعذبني كنت فكر انه الضرب بتصير بتخاف مني، بس بعد ما اخذت الدروس منك في بديل، مو ضروري الضرب، في بديل ثاني
ما بيجيب نتيجه. اني انا مثل ما تعلمت بحب اني اطلع واعطي جلسات للعالم وهن يتعلموا، بيصير قريبين كثير من اولادهم وما يضل هذا الحاجز بينهم وبين اولادهم.
برافو عليك، اخذت اليوم مثلا سفر بكره الاحسن.
وبتمنى منكم كلياتكم انه تكونوا هيك قريبين من اولادكم حتى لو بادق التفاصيل. مثل هذا صندوق القدوه، بحب اني اكون قدوه وان غيري يصير قدوه كمان، يعني ناس تعلم ناس مثل ما بيقولوا انه يصيروا للاحسن.
Thank you. With that, colleagues, we will call it a day. Have a very, very pleasant evening. Come back to us tomorrow after lunch, and we will be back here again with presentations. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.